One afternoon, the couch had me in my web novels. The next, I woke naked on a beach with a stone axe. One of almost 10 billion survivors dumped into the infinite survival world. No combat cheat came when I begged, and the newbie protection period was already ticking down. Then my talent showed itself. I could handcraft anime waifu companions from concept tags, and my first was a calm shrine maiden named Yeren, who warded off the mental corruption and sensed danger, while we built a cozy shelter. The trash talent was the winning hand, a warm home in a world built to kill everyone. Hit subscribe and like the video before we start. It's the only way this channel grows. How did I end up here? Let me take you back to the very first day. I come awake the way a server boots after a hard crash, with a mountain of information rammed straight into my skull. A cold mechanical voice is already halfway through welcoming me to the Infinite Survival World survival competition, reeling off its opening announcement like a bored flight attendant. It says this session has captured almost 10 billion survivors and scattered us across random areas, no two of us closer than 50 kilometers. It says our bodies have all been fully repaired and tuned to the best condition we can personally reach. The first 7 days are a newbie protection period with something called lowest presence switched on, and I should find or build a shelter fast. Danger and opportunity fill countless survival areas, and I should aim to become the strongest survivor and explore this world freely. Then the voice stutters and cuts out like damaged audio. A completely different voice forces its way into the gap, and this one is nothing like the first. It is gentle and sad, and so faint it sounds like it might dissipate on the very next breath. Into that silence, it slips a supplementary fifth announcement, that every survivor receives one chance at talent awakening. Somewhere under the words I catch a whisper that this is a final gift, the proof of someone's existence. Then a single command drops like a gavel and tells me to begin. Blue sky, white clouds, a long stretch of beach with the waves rolling in. I am flat on my back on fine sand, a salt wind slapping my face with an unfamiliar fishy smell. I am wearing exactly one pair of plastic flip-flops and nothing else at all, and a crude stone axe lies by my open hand. I wasn't even flattened by the legendary truck of reincarnation. I just got yanked out of my chair mid-game and dumped into another world, which honestly leaves a guy with nothing to say. My voice comes out raspy when I finally use it, and there is no excitement in it and no panic either. As a slothful youth who spent his days drowning in web novels, accepting a setup like this is basically instinct, so part of me even wants to laugh. But my fingertips are trembling, and when I raise a hand to wipe my face, it comes back cold and wet. So those are tears then, and here I was hoping it was something less embarrassing. The sea breeze is unreasonably salty, and I swallow the second half of the complaint before it can finish. That tear came out of nowhere, and it makes my throat go tight. The half bottle of soda still sitting in my fridge is a drink I will never finish now. The half-dead pothos on my windowsill will never get watered again. And those two ungrateful little masters who love to step on my face at 3 in the morning are somewhere I can no longer reach. I force one deep breath into my lungs and remind myself that, like it or not, I am already here. Sorting through the announcement, I feel a little dizzy, mostly because I cannot believe Earth had that many people in it. Then, like every transmigration protagonist before me, I perform the sacred cheat calling ritual. I yell at the empty air for a cheat to come add my points, and only the waves answer. I demand infinite resources and a 10,000-fold critical hit, and ask whether the system daddy is even home, and a single seagull cries out like it is laughing at me. I try one more time and announce that I want to check the cards, and the stone axe sits there in dignified silence. Fine, resigned to my fate, I pick up the axe and weigh it, and it turns out surprisingly solid, at least not pure decoration. The instant I grip it, a nearly transparent line of text flickers at the corner of my vision and shaves the tiniest sliver off my health. Even without a cheat, it seems, I am expected to bleed for every step. I feel a faint tightening at my left wrist, where a simple black bracelet, neither metal nor wood, has fastened itself into place like it was measured for me. A translucent screen unfolds in front of my eyes and immediately embarrasses itself. My status is still detecting, and my inventory is still detecting. My shelter reads as unbound, and only my communication is fully live. Both the world channel and the area channel are connected, and my trade shows the world side locked but the area side open. This bracelet must be some cut-rate knockoff from a factory that ships before it finishes loading, and I say as much to the void while tapping a menu nobody built properly. After a few tries, I confirm that summoning and dismissing the screen follows my thoughts perfectly. Smooth as anything. Which is the one thing about this device that actually works. My mind drifts back to that announcement. The first 4 points were cold and mechanical, standard system boilerplate, but that fifth one was a different creature, gentle and grieving in a way no automated voice should be. Talent Awakening does not sound like it belongs to the original rulebook. It sounds more like the organizer got interfered with by something and had a benefit forced in at the last second. Which means this whole setup runs a lot deeper than a survival game has any right to. I look up at the endless beach and the dark woods behind it. The sun is bright and coconut trees line the shore, so my starting luck does not seem terrible. Still, a survival world ought to at least hand out treasure chests, or I really will be reduced to punching trees from scratch. Better to see what everyone else is saying first. Rushing to the channels the moment the server opens usually yields the most valuable information and the best entertainment, so I open the world channel first. The screen instantly buries itself under a torrent of text scrolling faster than any human eye could hope to read, and I close it before it gives me a headache. The area channel is calmer, barely legible, every language auto-translated into my own by the system. A drowning survivor named Jin Hoyen is begging for help between mouthfuls of seawater, his fishing rod lost and his bamboo raft coming apart. Someone else crows that the system rod pulled a wooden chest full of compressed biscuits and a bottle of water straight out of the sea. A furious voice announces that whoever brought him here has just kidnapped a man worth several hundred million. A survivor named Hua Rihyo reports awakening a B-rank flame control talent that promptly tried to set his own hair on fire. Another poor soul is trapped beside a gorgeous sports car on an abandoned highway with no keys. One last message wonders nervously whether anyone shares his area, since he woke up next to a creepy stone circle that looks like an altar. The channel is a snapshot of everything human at once, panic and gloating and cursing and pleading, and the area types clearly run wild across the map. I want to drop something witty into the stream, but a quick check tells me I get exactly one post a day, so I hold my tongue. There is no way to click anyone's avatar and no private messaging either. Contacting strangers in a life-or-death world is a fast way to become someone's dinner, and 50 kilometers is not a distance. 2 legs cross casually. The priority is still to rely on myself. Then I open the area side of trade, and even knowing better, my face still twitches when it refreshes. The top listings are a masterclass in human desperation. Someone is buying any food or water and offering, in exchange, freshly removed underwear complete with suspicious stains. Someone else is selling limited edition high heels, only tried on, in return for knives or axes. And a third genius is buying weapon and armor blueprints at a high price with an empty bearer checkbook from a Swiss bank. I lose. I close the interface without another word. The sea breeze rolls over me, fishy and salt heavy, and seabirds chirp somewhere down the coast. The whole scene is so peaceful it does not look like a survival world at all. I take a breath and turn to the shimmering status tab, because that stubborn little health tick is still shaving slivers off me, and I would very much like to know why a naked man sunbathing loses health for the crime of existing. I tap the status column, and it expands. A near-transparent line flashes and vanishes in the corner before I can read it, and then the panel lays me out in full. It says my name is still Dang Surin, that I stand 175 centimeters and weigh 82 kilograms. My health is 99.7 out of 100. My sanity holds at 99, and my satiety is full at 100. My physique reads 5, and the note mentions the median for an ordinary human is 3, so at least my body is above average. My intellect is a humble 3, my spirit is 5, and my energy is a rock-bottom 1, with a dry line about the path of transcendence being long and hard. My talent sits blank and pending, and my experience and skills are none. My equipment is none in a way the panel enjoys, noting the virtual model is bare without so much as a pair of underpants. What catches my eye is the comprehensive combat rating, which comes back as common. It is the second rung on a ladder that climbs from feeble at the very bottom, up through strong, fierce, and frenzied, then quasi-god, god, and out of bounds at the top. Common, not feeble. I remember another game that also called itself Infinite, and I let out a slow breath because feeble is clearly the tier of a mob you flatten under 1 foot. My physique of 5 is real too. My limbs feel light and strong when I move them, and the floaty weakness of years spent as a shut-in is simply gone. My spirit of 5 must be the mental toughness I built over a lifetime of learning to accept my fate on cue. My intellect of 3 I take without complaint, since I have always known exactly how ordinary I am. My energy of 1 is pure rookie garbage, but I comfort myself that if everyone else sits at 0, I am already 1 step ahead. The appetizer is over. Now comes the main course. I pull in a deep breath and shout at the sea for something fierce. Then, because a plain request feels wasteful, my brain misfires and I add that I would happily take a many children, many blessings, or a flourishing harem sort of talent. The instant it leaves my mouth, I want to slap myself. There is not another human being within 50 kilometers, and if I actually awakened something like that, my only recourse would be a hole in a coconut tree. The bracelet does not give me a chance to take it back. It announces that talent awakening is beginning, that it is analyzing, that it is matching, and a surge of warmth wells up from somewhere deep inside it. The heat is gentle and impossible to resist, flowing along my blood and into my heart, and out to every corner of me. It feels less like power being forced in than like sinking into a hot bath on a freezing winter night. Time loses its grip on me. I drift in a warm chaos while countless tiny points of light pass through my body, some cool, some stinging, some heavy, all of them merely travelers passing by. It feels like 100 years and also like a single instant. Then one unique speck of light breaks into the chaos, not the brightest, but carrying a distinct rhythm, like a beating heart or a flickering flame. It drifts closer, slow and steady, a weary bird returning to its nest, and it settles quietly into my soul and simply never leaves again. The warmth pulls back like a tide. I blink hard and find myself standing exactly where I started, the waves unchanged, the whole thing already fading like a brief dream. But something more is inside me now, and I feel it. I call up the status bar, and the talent column has updated, and for one held breath I am terrified my dumb harem joke came true. It did not. My talent is called Melting Furnace, and the panel classes it as Concept, Manifestation, and Growth Type. Its rarity is EX and marked Unique. Its proficiency an F on a scale that runs all the way up to SSS and then EX again. EX. Unique. My eyes go wide and my heart skips a couple of beats, because even without knowing exactly how strong EX runs, the classification alone tells me it is off the charts. I am taking off. I dive into the details. The first ability is a hidden form the panel calls Ember Mode, which turns my whole body into a flame tattoo. It burns 15% of my health every day to generate a matching amount of primal fire, currently about 1 flame a day. In exchange, it hands me a constant 10% boost to every attribute and a basic Lord of Cinder field. That field repels tiny insects and keeps me immune to extreme cold and heat. My soaring mood drops halfway down with a thud. It burns 15% of my health daily, calls the ash primal fire, and names its field after a Lord of Cinders. Instead of raising my health cap, it hands me a permanent bleeding debuff. I can already picture myself sitting cross-legged by a bonfire, slowly cooking down to a shriveled husk. Then I look again and realize the primal fire is what burns the health, while the ember is what raises the ceiling, which is a small mercy dressed up as a threat. There is a distinct scent of some designer trying very hard to nudge me down the path of linking the flame. But an EX talent is never that simple, so I read on. The second ability lets me manifest a physical form, and it is the default. With a single thought, a half-person tall stone furnace, ancient and hemispherical, quietly appears on the beach. It is piled up from rocks with a gap in one side, like an overturned giant bowl. It also looks unsettling like a small grave mound. Next to the cool flame tattoo, this lumpy little thing is genuinely embarrassing, and I remind myself that looks do not matter, only function. Then the function loads, and I understand what I am holding. The furnace takes in materials and consumes primal fire to extract basic substances and conceptual elements. The tags, out of those materials, absorbing the refined power in the same motion. And in this world, everything is material, which almost certainly includes people. I do not even need a helper to convert the power for me, since I absorb it directly. And that is not all. The third ability converts the furnace into smelting mode, which consumes primal fire to resmelt the extracted substances, and tags it fuses and refines them into products based on quantity, value, compatibility, and my own intention. I stand on the beach in silence for a full minute. I am destined to be an ashen thing, hunting monsters and experts and lords of cinder for their power, refining their bodies and souls into gear, and turning myself into the ultimate kindling. I suck in a slow breath of cold air and console myself that at least my daily contribution to global warming will take the edge off the next cold snap. This is more than an undead's curse. It is a personal strengthening engine, a material extractor, and a rule-based workbench, all fused into one absurd chimera. I can burn myself to make primal fire, burn materials into tags, then recombine those tags into whatever I can imagine, gear and items, and most likely life itself. A trace of chill crawls up my spine underneath the excitement. A talent this overpowered was handed to me through what smells like a conspiracy, and that cold word, materials, reeks of slaughter and plunder. Using this thing at all means walking a road with blood on my hands from here on out. The black bracelet warms against my wrist, a dark red flame icon lights up beside my health, and the number begins to tick down, one thin sliver at a time. It turns out the countdown started the moment I woke up. Conspiracy or not, I have already dreamed up 100 uses for this talent. I will cut my way through the world for tags and handcraft equipment, items, and eventually companions to share a warm life with. But you eat one bite at a time and walk the road one step at a time. And wives, shelters, get built. One plank at a time. It is day one, and I have not even lit a fire, so daydreaming about luxuries is putting the coconut cart before the horse. I reach inward and coax the warmth to burn. Dark red flame tattoos surface across my whole body like magma sliding under my skin, a few illusory sparks drifting off the tips of my hair. It brings the loose, comfortable relief of soaking in a hot spring. It looks cool and it costs me blood, which is the whole aesthetic of this talent in one line. It also leaves me very, very breezy, since all I am wearing is a bracelet and a pair of flip-flops. As for why I got the Emperor's new clothes as a starting skin, I distinctly remember playing that game with nothing on, so this one is on me. The infinite survival world really is the industry standard for stinginess, refusing to spare even a scrap of underwear at spawn. Anyone with a weak constitution would catch a chill the moment the sea wind hit and hard reset into a game over. Luckily, that is not my problem. The Lord of Cinder Field that rides along with Ember Mode makes me immune to extreme temperatures. I could ride out a cold wave or a heat disaster on this breezy skin alone for a good while. Enough complaining. I pat my own face and pull up the status bar. The health value now glows dark red with the burning effect, reading 105 out of a new cap of 110. The old ceiling of 100 climbed to 110 thanks to the 10% boost, but the number bleeds down a hair every second, and that slow drip is a silent death knell. Even a survivor at full health can be killed in one strike, and I am carrying a permanent bleed on top of it. So the urgent priority could not be clearer, which is to solve health and food immediately. As long as my health stays high, the burn stops being a threat, and turns into the exact pressure that will drive me to hunt, plunder, and grow. That is the positive cycle, and food is the most direct way to restore health. Starting by the sea, the resources should not be too bad, and eating to heal ought to be standard, unless this world is cruel enough to gate healing behind potions and bonfires. So I make my plan. Step 1 is to forage the coastline for food and confirm how the healing works. Step 2 is to find a good campsite, build a shelter, and bind it. Nights in survival worlds are famously lethal, and I do not dare gamble that my common rank body survives one unarmored. 7 days feels too generous, so I set myself a tighter goal of 2.5 days. If I cannot build within a single day, half my life will already be gone to the burn, and by then I will have turned to ash long before I ever handcraft anyone. I have no illusions about slaying the heavens or standing alone through the ages, none of that. At this stage, living steadily, eating a hot meal and sleeping soundly is the greatest victory I can name. Pep talk finished. I grip the axe and start working my way along the shoreline. A naked man in flip-flops with a stone axe jogging past cacti under a bright sun is an image with an absurd sense of humor baked right in. An hour later, I am squatting on the sand, licking dry lips, staring at my pathetic haul. 3 pieces of soaking wet kelp, 8 tightly shut muscles. Nothing else, and not the shadow of the treasure chests I had pictured. I touch the kelp, and the item info surfaces on its own, marking it common food that restores a point of health, and 2 of satiety, fresh but risky raw. The muscles read about the same, 2 health and 2 satiety each. The good news is that they really do heal. The bad news is that all of this together would not get stuck in my teeth. Whatever happened to the beachcombing paradise from those influencer videos? Crabs underfoot, lobsters for the grabbing, abalone in every rock crevice. When it is my turn, I have apparently logged into the server where the resource spawn rate got cut by 99%. Practice really is the only test of truth, and my practice score is looking like a failing grade. I am maybe one thick head of black hair better off than a real survival TV host stranded naked on an island, minus all of his wilderness knowledge, his technique, and his iron will. I have watched a mountain of survival shows and read a library of novels, but book knowledge is shallow, and doing the thing is a different animal. Worse, everyone else can afford to learn slowly and play the extreme challenge of eating 9 meals over 3 days. I cannot, because I have a health-burning countdown over my head, and at this foraging rate, I get cooked to death in 2.5 days. A heavy wave of frustration and loneliness rises in me, mixed with the cold uncertainty of what comes next. Even with the area channel still scrolling, those words cannot chase off the real chill of a hopeless spot. The little chosen one arrogance I felt from awakening an EX talent is getting crushed flat by reality. For half a second I wonder if I should just lie down and give up, and then I shake the thought out of my head. Hard. I slap myself twice, not gently, and the sting drags my scattered thoughts back into focus. I tell myself to pull it together, that I am at the very least going to be a man who survives his own newbie period, and I force my brain into cold analysis mode. Wilderness survival comes down to 4 basics: food, water, fire, and shelter, and I take them one at a time. Food is available at the sea, but the yield is miserable and I have no way to store it, so hand-carrying scraps back and forth would eat my whole day. Which reminds me that my inventory is still under inspection, and I would love to know what kind of inspection takes this long. Water is not scarce by the coast, but I cannot drink seawater. I know the theory of solar distillation, but I have no container and no plastic film, and you cannot make bricks without straw. Fire is where I want to laugh and cry at once. My talent is literally named for a furnace and produces something called primal fire, so I assumed it was practically a lighter. I tested it by feeding a dry branch into the flickering flame of the physical furnace, and instead of catching, the branch got erased like an invisible eraser wiped it away. At the same time, a branch tag quietly appeared in the furnace's conceptual space. So the burning of my furnace is a higher-order rule-based conceptual refinement, not the common oxidation that makes a campfire, which means my magical furnace cannot light a real bonfire, and I am the proud owner of a workbench with no matches. To cook my kelp and mussels without gambling on parasites, I still have to fall back on the most primitive method, drilling wood for fire. Shelter is the last piece and the whole point of the second step. To get wood, I punch trees, but I look at my crude stone axe, then at the tall coconut palms and the harder wooded trees deeper in. The math on chopping them down is depressing. Maybe I gather coconut leaves first and throw together the simplest lean-to-hut. Just as I am halfway through organizing that plan, something rustles behind me. A sound that is clearly not wind through leaves comes from the edge of the jungle at my back, and every hair on my body stands on end as my thoughts cut off. I spring up like a startled rabbit, right hand snapping to the axe, my heart already pounding, because that was not the waves and not the breeze. A beast, or one of this world's native monsters. I drop low behind a huge reef and leave only a sliver of my face and one eye exposed, staring at the source. My whole body wound tight into high alert. A strange rhythmic mumbling drifts out of the trees, meaningless syllables riding on the rustle of branches being shoved aside. Then a figure walks into the open, and my pupils shrink. It is humanoid, one head, 2 arms, 2 legs, structurally a person, wrapped from the waist down in a crude short skirt of rough white cloth. And the most attention-grabbing detail is the pair of full exaggerated shapes on her chest, defying gravity and swaying violently with every step. A woman out here, wearing almost nothing? My head buzzes. The announcement swore we spawned at least 50 kilometers apart, so either I got absurdly lucky to land beside another survivor, or the announcement was flat wrong, and surprise and wariness and a thin thread of hope all rise in me at once. I step out from behind the reef, hesitating over whether to call out to this fellow human. She takes a few more steps into the full sunlight, and the smile forming on my face freezes solid. I see her face clearly, and I see her completely inhuman, cloudy crimson eyes, which hold nothing but a beast's bloodthirsty hunger. Something is very wrong. I shrink back behind the reef, my heart hammering like a drum, thoughts firing across my mind like bullet comments. What kind of woman strolls topless straight toward a topless male stranger without a flicker of reaction? This is not a deserted island dating show. 100 things are wrong, and the whole vibe is flipped from wilderness survival to something I do not want to name. Then it clicks. That system announcement, the newbie protection period, the lowest presence. Could it really be what I am thinking? My heart gives a heavy thud, and I hold my breath and tighten my grip on the axe. I decide to bet on it, because at worst I fight, and there is a first time for everything. My muscles coil and my back foot slides ready to launch into a naked man's dead sprint down the beach at a moment's notice. As the distance closes, my system-sharpened eyes hand me the female savage in far too much detail. Her skin is a landscape of pustules and unknown spots, her hair greasy and matted, and I can practically smell it. That so-called white cloth skirt is so filthy its original color is a mystery. As for the pair of shapes swaying with her staggering steps, I wail silently and yank my gaze away. I curse this repaired body for enhancing even my detail-capturing vision, and beg some imaginary system to please switch on a beauty filter, because certain things should not exist in reality at this resolution. My big head shakes and my small head shrinks, and the only thought in my heart is that this is not right. But I hold still through the visual assault. Soon the female savage reaches the spot where I piled my sad little spoils. She completely ignores the fresh human footprints in the sand, never once glancing toward my reef, and squats down to start scooping up my kelp and mussels. I cannot stop myself. I burst out from behind the reef, my footsteps loud on the sand, bracing for a scream or an attack, and neither comes. She acts as if she is deaf and blind, no reaction to me or the noise, still calmly gathering the unclaimed goods. Now I am the shocked one. I stop dead, eyes wide, and wonder aloud whether she truly cannot register footprints this obvious. I creep a few steps closer and stomp hard on purpose. And nothing. By now she has stood up, clutching her little harvest, and turned back toward the jungle. My curiosity fully steamrolls my caution, so I pick up a pebble, weigh it, and toss it to land just in front of her feet. The stone clatters bright and clear against the ground, and her steps do not so much as hitch, walking past it like it was an inconsequential breeze. My courage swells all at once. I catch up in a few strides, deliberately circle to her front, and plant myself less than 2 meters away. Then I start swinging the axe in her face with what I imagine is fierce momentum and what is probably closer to a shamanic dance. Her cloudy crimson eyes stare straight through my body toward the distant trees, her direction unchanged, and she is about to walk right into me. I step aside fast, and she passes through the exact spot where I stood, trailing a gust of sweat and rot. I stand there forgetting to even lower the axe, drowning in a massive sense of the absurd. So this is the power of lowest presence, except it is not lowering anything but deleting me outright. This effect is more ridiculous than the stealth in any game I have ever played, because she could not even see an axe swinging in her face. Is this really a hardcore survival world or an invisible peeping simulator wearing a survival costume? I do not hesitate for another second. I summon the bracelet interface and open that precious area channel, the one that lets me speak only once a day, and decide to spend my first post making the feed a little more fun. I type it out and send it. I tell everyone I have made a shocking discovery, that the lowest presence protection buff is heaven-defying, that I ran into a non-human female savage of the eye-searing variety. I've personally tested it by throwing stones and dancing right in front of her while she ignored me like I was invisible. So this buff may be far more broken than we assumed. After a short delay, the slowing stream of the channel instantly speeds back up. A foreigner going by Teddy cries out for everyone to charge and show the dignity of Earthlings. He gets immediately roasted by others, who point out that the keyword in my post was ignore, not available, and that his brain seems to match his username. Somebody else laments that the protection may be too overpowered. If it is really this strong, then the wild boar he spent half an hour cowering in a tree to escape was a whole rack of ribs he left on the table. The feed refreshes fast, clearly packed with lurkers, and I close it, a little speechless that a foreigner spent his one daily post egging strangers on to commit crimes. Still, the news will spread and get verified soon enough, so I suppose I did a public service of sorts. What none of us survivors know yet, while we poke and test and complain, is that this ridiculous protection comes from our own mother planet. In her final moments, the dying Earth consciousness spent part of the world's origin to give us the talent awakening. Then she poured whatever she had left into strengthening our newbie protection period. The bracelet system only ever offered lowest presence, which thins a survivor's presence enough to hide from ordinary creatures. Under her blessing, it becomes a near absolute no presence against ordinary native life, especially anything at common rank and below. As long as there is no direct physical contact and no behavior that violently breaks a creature's common sense, we simply register as air, as background scenery, and get completely ignored. It only works on the most ordinary creatures though, and against stronger existences the effect weakens or fails entirely. As for how a shattered planet managed any of this, the only answer is that it is all part of the plan, another chip paid in a desperate gamble for the survival of the civilization. Up ahead, the female savage burbles her meaningless syllables and pries another strip of kelp out of a reef crevice, stuffing it into her bundle with satisfaction. I quiet down and stop my dance testing, my eyes following that slovenly figure while my analytical brain kicks into high gear. An old line about famine years and people eating each other flashes through my mind, and I stamp it out immediately. I have not fallen that far, and setting the moral wall aside, just looking at her filth and whatever bacteria she carries, I could never stomach it anyway. My thinking runs clear and practical. First, this is very likely a gathering individual with her own route and targets, moving like a resource-collecting character on a loop. Second, she is topless but her lower body is wrapped in a crude skirt of white cloth. That means fabric, which means the concept of simple sewing or wrapping, which means there is a strong chance of a group behind her with a basic social structure. And finally, and most importantly, she has to go home. If I just follow her, I inherit her water source, her fire, her food stores, her ready-made shelter, and maybe tools and cloth and a dozen other resources on top. This is a starter village guide and a resource map falling straight out of the sky. A golden shortcut past the most painful stage of primitive accumulation. My method leans a little towards stalking, sure, but in a life-or-death world, using the rules to stay alive is the first directive. I watch her figure shrink toward the tree line. 5 meters, 10, 20, and just before she vanishes, I stop hesitating and slip after her. The sky slides toward evening as I follow. She really does move like a resource-gathering character, her path circuitous, veering into side trails without warning to rummage for suspiciously colored berries or dig fat white grubs out of rotten wood. I cannot tell whether she is following a fixed route or pure wild instinct. Her untied cloth bundle is already fat with harvest, swinging as she walks. Once the light goes noticeably dim, her pace quickens and her direction sharpens, like she is finally heading back. I close to within 5 meters. The jungle thickens, the decent daylight of the outskirts filtered through layer after layer of canopy into murky mottled patches. The ancient trees tangle their roots and drop their vines so densely that one careless turn could lose me my target. Luckily, the force field for my ember mode earns its keep. The land leeches and giant spotted mosquitoes swarming this jungle keep getting flicked off my skin by an imperceptible warm barrier just before they land. Without it, the insects alone would have broken my will to keep stalking. Full dark falls. The sky died to ink, only the faintest starlight leaking through the leaves. Just as I start to wonder whether I lost her, or whether this savage even has a camp, a flicker of dancing orange-red light stabs through the darkness ahead. Firelight. My spirits lift and I stop instantly, folding myself into the heavy tree shadows beyond the fire's reach, breathing slow to bury the heartbeat that anticipation has kicked up. I feed myself a little self-hypnosis. I remind myself that I am currently in a zero-present state, the silent infiltrator every stealth game is built around. I am the invisible man of the woods who can go where he pleases while nobody sees him. Safety first. Observe first. Like a proper stalker, at least in my own head, I use the tree cover to slide sideways and find a trunk thick enough to hide behind. Then I ease half my face out to study the camp's outline against the fire. The instant I see it clearly, my pupils shrink. My system-optimized vision drags every detail forward, cruelly sharp. It is a forest clearing maybe 10 meters across, ringed by a crooked fence of sharpened stakes barely half a person high, with a campfire burning low at its center. Rough wooden racks stand around the clearing like drying frames, and hung across them are the remains of various creatures. Some are dried into dark brown strips, some still furred and twisted into stiff, unnatural poses. Grim, but within what a savage tribe would do. Then my gaze sweeps a few of the racks, and my blood freezes. What hangs there is unmistakably human, torn fragments of modern clothing, stained with dark spots, wrapped around shriveled, deformed limbs. The angles and the ragged tears in the cloth tell a silent story of the torture their owners suffered before they died. And on an especially thick branch at the camp's edge, a round grayish-white withered head is impaled from below on a sharp wooden spike. It is tilted slightly, its hollow eye sockets and gaping mouth stretched wide into a frozen mask of despair. The firelight flickers across it, and it happens to face exactly where I am hiding, its lifeless stare seeming to pierce the flames in the trees and collide dead-on with mine. The system chimes in a message only I can see. It tells me I have witnessed an extremely cruel scene involving the remains of my own kind, and that it is running a mental stability check. This is a first encounter with no resistance and a high scene impact, and I have been marked by grudge. As a newbie protection courtesy, the mark will not officially take effect for 7 days. Then it drops my sanity, and the numbers slide in cold real time. My health reads 89, my sanity gutted by a full 15 points before it starts crawling back, and my satiety sits at 75. I scream silently at the air and at a customer service line that does not exist, telling this new account it had better not mess with me. I demand to know why the opening plot handed me a limited edition crossover of every torture horror movie ever made, instead of letting me grind slimes and wild boars like a decent tutorial. That is skipping way too far ahead. Even so, the chill of fear and disgust and anger still climbs my spine. My breathing turns heavy, and my heart slams like it is about to run a scene of cardiac arrest and hard restart. I press my back to the rough bark and force the breaths in and out. But those twisted remains and that hollow-eyed head are already burned into my retina in ultra-high definition, and no amount of horror movies prepares you for the real thing. Watching a zombie film is not the same as being chased by one. Every survival instinct I own is screaming at me to run. This is clearly a tribe with cannibal traditions, and it does not take much thought to know how they treat outsiders. Those corpses might be other survivors, or unluckier transmigrators from an earlier wave, and my mind churns through the possibilities in a mess. Then a sharper worry surfaces, whether that female savage genuinely cannot see me, or has been acting the whole time luring me back to the nest for an ambush. I dismiss it almost as fast as it comes. If this were a trap, I would already be pinned to the dirt under 8 burly savages, not squatting here narrating my own horror movie in my head. And strangely, the reasoning calms me. The fear stays, but a colder truth settles over it. This is not a game with a reload button. There are no laws and no moral floor here, and weakness itself is the original sin. The scene I just watched is the bloodiest possible warning. I was too reckless. Riding the heaven-defying buff of Loa's presence, I openly taunted a savage and then trailed her all the way to her camp. In any horror movie, that is the standard flag for the first character to die. Good thing this invisibility cheat is the real deal, or I would already be a strip of dried otaku meat on a rack, or sizzling over that fire. I got carried away as I went along, and I can admit it. Calmed down, or maybe just resigned, I ease back into analysis mode and peek out with the smallest possible movements to survey the camp. My enhanced eyes lay it out plainly. There are 2 exceptionally tall, burly male savages, one fat and one all muscle, their dark skin crawling with pustules. They wear animal hides at their waists and hold sharpened stone axes or spears, their eyes fierce. 3 topless female savages huddle around the fire, roasting several chunks of meat whose origin I refuse to examine. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice a mangled corpse on a nearby rack is missing a thigh, and I force myself to look away. 2 small savages look like children, their skin cleaner and their eyes lacking the cloudy madness of the adults, and a closer look tells me they are 2 little girls. A hunchbacked old woman leans on a wooden stick and mutters to herself near the fire. 8 of them all told. Should I just leave? The thought lasts 1 second before a stronger reason crushes it. Leaving now is the same as ignoring the danger. Once the 7-day protection ends and the invisibility expires, these savages will have been living in this area for who knows how long. It will be far easier for them to find an outsider like me than the reverse, and by then I am just an extra meal being delivered to their door. I cannot retreat, I grind my teeth, and a cold but logically airtight plan takes shape. I must strike first while the invisibility still holds, because wiping them out does not only remove the threat, I feel the eager warmth of the furnace inside me, and I feel that glaring health drain on my status bar. They are my best initial kindling. In gaming terms, this is a starter village resource point sitting right in front of me, only it is guarded by a pack of red-named elite mobs. The risk is enormous, but the reward might be the exact key to my survival. Mind made up, I switch to scouting. The camp's defenses are laughable, the waist-high fence useless against an invisible man, a stone fire pit in the center, and 3 ragged huts scattered around it. Then my gaze locks onto one side of the camp, and I see 4 wooden treasure chests. One of them is open, revealing neatly stacked processed wood and stone and leaf-wrapped lumps. Those are my chests. No wonder I wandered the beach for hours without finding a single one. They were all confiscated by these local bandits. Cutting off a man's road to wealth is a capital crime that earns exactly what is coming. This is the loot for a Clear the Savage camp quest, and every need I have, resources, safety, fuel, is somehow solvable in this one clearing at once. I steel my heart, tighten my grip on the axe, and begin my first ever stealth assassination. Stepping soft across the earth and hugging the shadows, I drift through a gap in the fence like a genuine ghost. The savages remain utterly oblivious, ringed around the fire, tearing into their meat and shoveling handfuls of berries and insect eggs into their mouths with satisfied grunts. I glide up behind the fat male savage closest to me, his broad, greasy back defenseless in front of me, close enough that I catch his body odor and the smell of blood. I hold my breath and raise the axe high in both hands, aiming for the matted back of his skull. Then I freeze. The axe range is too short and the posture is too awkward, and if I miss the vital spot and get grabbed in the counter, I am finished. I abandon the plan on the spot and scan the area, and my eyes land on a nearby rack. Stuck in a mangled body is a stone spear stained dark red, jutting out at an angle. I walk over light-footed, swallow my discomfort, and carefully draw it free. It is heavy in my hand, the head sharpened to a wicked point. The item info marks it a sharp stone spear, common quality weapon, 5 attack, 17 of 50 durability. Crude savage craftsmanship but lethal enough. And stained with blood. I thank whoever he was. I inherit this legacy and will consider his grudge settled by my hand. I circle back to the fat savage's rear flank, and in Ember mode the 10% boost to everything makes my body feel packed with power. I adjust my angle, aim the tip below his ear where the skull meets the spine, that classic backstab weakness, and thrust. Every ounce of strength pours into my arms, my enhanced body driving the spear in clean and merciless, a hot knife through butter. The fat savage's body jerks hard, a short muffled groan escaping him as the meat falls from his hand. Then his massive frame slumps forward, twitches twice, and goes still. The system quietly confirms, for my eyes only, that I have killed a corrupted savage warrior. The others jolt up in alarm, dropping their food and snatching their weapons, staring in terror at their fallen companion, before scanning the black jungle around them. Their eyes sweep across the spot where I stand several times over, and every time it is like looking straight through empty air, never catching, never lingering. Lois' presence truly is the greatest thing ever made. My confidence multiplies as I pull the spear free with a spray of warm liquid and move my feet toward the muscular savage, same flank rear angle, same charged thrust. The second body hits the ground, but this time, in the exact instant the spear pierces and withdraws, I clearly see the muscular savage's cloudy crimson eyes snap toward me in his final moment. One arm makes a futile swipe at where I stand. Alarm bells go off in my skull and I retreat several steps to open the distance. The remaining 3 female savages, the 2 little girls, and the old crone break into full panic. They huddle together, swinging stone knives and wooden clubs, and shrieking at the empty air, and a couple of wild blows nearly clip me by pure chance. He saw me, and that should be impossible while the presence effect holds, so I think fast. My gaze drops to the bloody spear, and it lands. Contact. The physical contact through the spear briefly broke the ignore state. I remember how carefully I avoided touching the female savage while I trailed her, and a cold wave of hindsight washes over me. If I had reached out to touch her then, I might have kicked off a boss fight on the spot. Good thing I am an upright man, who kept his hands to himself. Now the loophole is clear, and the rest of the tactics write themselves. Keep distance, strike and retreat, and never give them a chance to counter or make contact. I fight the most one-sided asymmetric war there is, moving like a patient hunter, or maybe a clumsy assassin who cheats, circling the panicked savages. Every strike is swift, precise, lethal. After each one, I melt back into the shadows, wait, watch the reactions, and pick the next opening. By the time the 3rd female savage collapses clutching her throat, the old crone and the 2 little girls have shattered completely, terrified of the invisible reaper cutting them down. They do not run. They drop their weapons, turn their backs to where they think I stand, kneel toward the campfire, and bang their heads against the ground. They wail shrill, incoherent prayers, their fear-filled eyes darting toward the pitch-black forest beyond the camp. I hesitate with the spear raised. The jumping firelight lights the thin, trembling figures, and the aged frame kneeling in the dirt, and the air hangs thick with blood and burnt meat. For a moment, I feel like the villain of this story, the intruder, the slaughterer, the demon king bringing death into someone else's home. I cannot afford a bleeding heart. I shake it off hard, forcing myself to picture the humans on the wooden racks and exactly what would happen if I fell into these hands. Here, hesitation is defeat and a soft heart is death. I pull one deep breath, and my gaze goes firm again. The last 3 thrusts come quick and decisive. Then the camp falls silent except for the crackle of the fire. I stand by the flames, breathing a little hard, though the exertion was mostly mental. I flick the sticky blood off the spear and scan the mess on the ground, and something nags at me. They clearly had the chance to run at the end, so why did not a single one bolt for the trees, when even mindless terror should have sent them fleeing? Unless... A chilling thought surfaces, that to them, the dark forest is even more terrifying than the invisible reaper inside the camp. My head snaps up toward the impenetrable black ringing the clearing. Only now, too late, do I notice how quiet it has gotten. My mind was so fixed on the camp and the killing that I tuned the world out. Listening now, there's nothing beyond the faint pop of a campfire. No insects, no night birds, not even the wind. The entire forest dropped into a dead, oppressive stillness. I widen my eyes and try to see into it, but my enhanced vision only pulls vague tree silhouettes out of a blackness deep enough to swallow all light. Then a sensation of being watched crawls up my spine like a cold snake. It is not the cloudy madness of a savage, but something ancient and indifferent, the way you might glance at an ant. It could be coming from any direction, and it feels like it comes from everywhere. The system tells me I am sensing the gaze of a high-level existence, or an unknown danger. It runs a mental pressure check, noting my first encounter, my spirit of 5, and my total lack of resistance. Then it takes another 10 points off my sanity. My knuckles go white on the spear. Far above the boundless black canopy, irregular giant cracks like scars tear silently across the starry sky. Stuffed inside them are countless bloodshot, slowly writhing pale spheres. They are malicious eyeballs forced into the void, and their cold, frenzied, all-devouring stares punch through the clouds. Those stares pin themselves into the souls of every survivor who looks up at the night sky in this moment. It is the first night of the infinite survival world, and across the whole planet, exhausted survivors are lifting their eyes, hoping to find the familiar moon of home to soothe the bone-deep loneliness. And so they see, and so they are seen. The malice surges out like a cold tide on nothing but the meeting of gazes. It is a show of force from this world to its newcomers, declaring in the cruelest terms that outdoors at night, without a shelter, this is the madness that will meet you head-on. By that first night, more than 100 million survivors are already dead, most of them from sanity that collapsed under the gaze and drove them to self-harm. Still almost 10 billion of us remain. I know nothing about the tally. I am too busy being a cleaner. I hum a catchy work tune from a strategy game streamer, while dragging the heavy savage corpses across the blood-soaked mud on bare feet, stacking them in the center of the camp like firewood. The diligent and brave Sugar Surin sneaking his way up the road to strength, making a huge contribution and a huge sacrifice, the sacrifice being his own health. My hands work, but a strange dissonance rises in me. It is not the camp that is too quiet, but my own insides. These things are 70 to 80% human in shape if I ignore the hygiene, and only hours ago the sight of their victims left me nauseous and shaking. But now, handling 8 still warm bodies I personally ended, my heart is as calm as if I were clearing a wave of mobs in a game. That is very wrong. A weakling who would not even watch a chicken get slaughtered for the new year is now moving corpses with all the emotion of a man signing for a package. Even with mental prep for killing, I should not feel this casual. I stop and wipe away sweat that is not there. I wonder if the furnace is doing this to me. I summon the ancient stone furnace and let it settle onto the bloody clearing, then clumsily drag the fat savage's body to its mouth. The material info reads him out as an ordinary corrupted savage warrior, male, biological material, and potential food of common quality. The meat is coarse and may carry unknown bacteria or mental pollution, and it is not recommended as a regular food source. It estimates the extractable tags as limb, flesh, bone, wildness, corruption, and more, and the refined gains as health and sanity cap, minor attribute boosts, related traits, experience, and skill fragments. My state of mind is clearly off, too professional, too efficient, like an emotionless material processing terminal, and that efficiency stripped of feeling gives me a chill instead of pride. In cruel contrast to that inner calm, the numbers in the corner keep sliding. My health at 83, my sanity at 70, my satiety at 60. 7. When did my sanity fall to 70? It was 84 during the day, and losing 10 to the gaze should have left it at 74, so it dropped further while I was not looking. While I handled the bodies just now, feeling calm the whole time, the glimpses of twisted faces and bloodstains seemed to carry a faint, cold, slimy sensation, like invisible things whispering at my ear. I shudder hard, and a strong intuition surges up. Do not look into it. Do not ask why. The answers to some questions are pollution in themselves, and the moment I know, the dam of my sanity might break. I need a distraction, and my strengthening is right here in front of me. In the center of the furnace floats a fist-sized, steadily burning dark red primal fire, the yield of a full day of burning my own health. I push the corpse all the way in, and the primal fire settles onto the material like it is alive, and there is no thunder and no spray of gore. The instant the body touches the flame, it is wrapped in a highly efficient decomposition field. It silently ignites and vaporizes, finally reduced to a small pile of unremarkable gray-white embers in the corner of the furnace. The primal fire shrinks by nearly half before my eyes, its color dimming as it drifts back to the center to flicker on. At the same moment, a gentle but certain warm current pours into me from the void, chasing off the night chill and that trace of eerie cold. My muscles feel firmer and my mind is shade clearer. I call up the status bar and it confirms the material was extracted and refined. Stored in the furnace space are the tags. There is an ordinary male 5-limb set, an ordinary male torso, an ordinary male head, and a bone. Alongside them sit a wildness fragment, a fragile soul fragment, a greed fragment, and a reproductive instinct fragment. The conversion pushes my health cap up 5 and my sanity cap up 1, and nudges my physique and spirit each up by a 10th. It grants the trait robust at F rank up 1%, the experience hunting at F rank up 1%, and the skill wild instinct at F rank up 1%. It also ticks my furnace proficiency up the smallest possible sliver, still EX and still F rank at 100%. The panel refreshes in real time. My height and weight are now 176 centimeters and 83 kilograms. My health reads 84 of a cap of 115. My sanity 71 of 111. My physique and spirit both at 5.6. My talent line now reads furnace at EX with a proficiency of 100%, plus robust at 1%. My experience and skill line, which was blank an hour ago, now carries hunting and wild instinct, both at 1%. I am hitting the jackpot. My board was empty before, and now it has a trait and 2 skills, and the numbers are low but the direction is gorgeous. This is the same as killing mobs and collecting materials, attribute points, and skill points all in one motion. I have won so hard I have gone numb. I throw my earlier worries about my mental state to the back of my mind and rub my hands together. The gains look like mosquito legs, sure, but if I burn a few more of these, I take off from a standing start. Full of energy, I shove the muscular savage's corpse into the furnace next. The leftover primal fire is clearly thin now, and it barely finishes the extraction and refining before it gutters down to a tiny, weak flame. Another warm current rolls through me. The status bar refreshes again, every ability creeping up a hair, and I laugh silently at the overall rise in my caps and the fresh skills. A sense of power flows through my body, small but more addictive than crypto trading, or maybe about the same. I even feel like I could go head-to-head with that fat savage now, though I know it is an illusion born of a sudden boost, so safety first. Pity I am out of fire. I look with regret at the pitiful sparks left in the furnace's center. It seems I will have to wait for tomorrow's burned blood to make new primal fire before I could even try the third function, smelting mode. With a thought, the physical furnace breaks into countless points of light and withdraws, folding back into the dark red flame tattoo across my body, carrying its constant warmth in that thin force field. The ember glow lights my naked body faintly in the dark, lending me a bit of mystery self-proclaimed. Only after all that do I realize, with a start, that the prickling on my back, that heart-pounding sense of being watched by something unknown, has quietly faded away. The forest silence remains, but the lethal pressure is gone. I let out a long breath and sit cross-legged by the still-burning campfire. The dancing flames push back the dark and warm my body, and my wound-tight nerves finally loosen a little. Then my nose twitches. A meaty aroma, charred fat threaded with something I cannot name, drifts over, and my gaze falls without permission onto the fire. There sit the few suspiciously shaped chunks of meat, still skewered on a rack, sizzling and dripping oil in the heat. I go quiet, and my stomach growls loud and clear, and only then do I remember I have not eaten in over a day. High-intensity combat, mental tension, and the talent burn have dragged my satiety down to 67. Is my first real meal after transmigrating and leaving civilization behind going to be a challenge round of this specialty ingredient? Images of a fearless survival TV legend and a certain elegant movie cannibal flash through my mind, and right behind them comes a much stronger wave of physical revulsion and a hard psychological floor. No, I cannot do it. I stand up abruptly and shake my head like I can fling the tempting sinful smell out of my brain. I am a young man who got a decent education and grew up with a few basic principles. Meme energy aside, if you really need me to eat this, I would rather go fight another savage. That is not food. Those are the remains of a fellow humanoid being. and some lines simply cannot be crossed. Tomorrow I will find a spot to dig a hole and bury them. Whoever they were and wherever they came from in life, ending up like this should not be their final fate. As for why I do not just toss them into the furnace as materials, it is not only the discomfort. I have a vague intuition that there is a world of difference between roasted cooked meat and fresh biological material, and how the furnace judges and what it outputs. I do not even want to verify it. I turn to the 4 wooden treasure chests sitting quietly in the corner, and my eyes light back up, because opening chests suits a decent man like me far better. This is the proper reward the system owes me for tonight's dungeon clear. From what I half remember, chest materials climb through a whole ladder, wood, then black iron, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum or diamond at the top. The gear inside runs from common up through fine, rare, legendary, epic, mythic, and eternal. 4 wooden chests though. These savages must have looted every chest that spawned nearby, which explains my empty beach. I walk to the one already flipped open and pick items up at random under the firelight, the info surfacing on its own. There are vacuum-packed multi-grain biscuits, common food that restores 5% of my max health and 10% satiety. They are bland and coarse and extremely dehydrating, but ready to eat and nearly immortal on the shelf. There are 5 units of wood, preliminarily processed and good for construction, crafting, and fuel, and 3 units of stone, sturdy core material for building and tools. And there is a single iron ingot, an advanced material of fine quality, pre-smelted, far stronger than stone, and key to crafting fine-grade tools, weapons, and gear. A common wooden chest holding fine quality material catches me off guard. So either the common chests here are more generous than I assumed, or the savages have a hoarding habit and cherry-pick the good stuff. I flip open the other 3 intact chests and tally everything up, and the haul is glorious. For materials I have 37 units of wood, 12 of stone, 3 chunks of unsmelted iron ore, 1 iron ingot, and 1 portion of strange slime. That last one is a large jar of translucent gel, a universal adhesive of fine quality, extremely strong, slowly setting at room temperature, a god-tier item for building and repairs. For food and water, I have 1080-gram bags of the multigrain biscuits. There are also 7 500-milliliter bottles of Peasant Woman's 3 Punches purified water, whose label shows 3 middle-aged women in boxing stances radiating a mysterious confidence. There are also 5 200-gram cups of Auntie Tong instant noodles. Last is 1 300-gram bag of universal seasoning, a common food mix of salt and sugar and basic spices that the description calls one of the important sparks of civilization. I am rich. I have truly hit the jackpot this time. Wood and stone are the hard currency of shelter. Iron is a treasure for upgrading tools, and food and water solve my immediate crisis. There are even quality of life luxuries like adhesive and seasoning, so this whole adventure is a massive win. The excitement lasts about 3 seconds before cold reality slaps me across the face. I have nowhere to put any of it. The 4 chests themselves are just containers with no storage function, and my survival bracelet, which I check again and again, still reads inventory as detecting, with no slots and no capacity anywhere below it. I demand of the bracelet why it engineered a whole high-tech system but would not spring for a starting 6-slot inventory. Even the most bare-bones survival game hands a man a few slots at spawn. I complain to the black ring on my wrist as if it can hear me. What I do not know is that the bracelet is not missing a storage function at all. The function needs to bind to a physical object carrying the concept of storage, a magic backpack, a spatial bag, or even just a trouser pocket, before it can activate. Stark naked without so much as a pocket, I present no storage medium for it to detect, so the inventory option was never established. I may consider myself an ashen thing, but I unfortunately do not come with a magic pocket dimension of my own. Do I have to go full primitive and weave a basket out of vines, or craft one on the spot? I look at the strange slime and then the wood, and images of crude handicraft flash by before I dismiss them as too slow and too small. The problem stays unsolved for now, so I deal with the more urgent need first, which is eating. Sitting cross-legged by the fire, I tear open a bag of multigrain biscuits, and the texture is exactly as advertised, like chewing cardboard mixed with sand, the flavor non-existent. I wash it down with a few gulps of Peasant Woman's 3 Punches, and the water is cool and sweet and cuts through the choking dryness, though my stomach starts to protest. To top off my health fast and offset the burn, I grit my teeth and force down 6 full bags of biscuits and 2 whole bottles. Then I let out a burp that tastes of industrial rations, my stomach heavy as a stone. This stuff is worse than the cheap food I used to feed the strays, which makes me wonder how my 2 ungrateful sons are getting on. Those 2 cat masters love to slip out and cause trouble and then come home meowing for their butler. Whether they can survive without me is a question with no answer, because the entire planet they lived on is already gone. No point dwelling on it, I tell myself, since I am the one running around naked out here. The status bar rewards the binge. My health is back to a full 122, and my sanity has recovered to 87 of 115. My satiety is overstuffed at 123 against a cap of 110. I make a note to be careful next time and not eat like a maniac. Today was a special case, and going forward I want the habit of small frequent meals, eating slow, eating well, eating light, eating on a schedule. My physical output today was not actually high, and the real drain came from the mental tension and the talent burn. Belly full and sanity recovering. I remember my main task. I open the area channel to see whether any survival veteran has cracked a backpack-free logistics method or some primitive carrying trick. The light screen unfolds, and I freeze. The resource trades and survival tips I expected are almost nowhere to be found. The whole channel is flooded like a runaway bullet chat, an information stream in every language on Earth, all of it circling one unified core. Do not look up at the sky. There is a great horror waiting there. Warnings span the screen in language after language, threaded with garbled, terrified messages, and I can pick out the parts I recognize, all saying roughly the same thing. I fight down the urge to look up and check for myself. Humans really are like cats, born rebels, and the more you tell them not to do something, the harder they want to try. Sure enough, right in the middle of the warnings, the rebellious posts pop up. One survivor out at sea insists the starry sky looks perfectly normal and asks whether everyone is sharing a hallucination. Another on open wasteland reports a round moon and no abnormalities. Then a third demands to know what everyone is talking about and announces he is going to look. He cuts off mid-message as his sanity crashes in front of everyone. 73, 62, help, and then nothing. The sky, eyes. My pupils constrict, and it all connects at once: my unexplained sanity drop, and that heart-palpitating feeling of being watched by something invisible, because I had never opened the World Channel announcements. My head starts to tilt up on instinct, and I catch only deep blue night sky cut into fragments by the dense canopy, a few normal glimmers of starlight leaking through the gaps. In less than a second, I force my eyes back down. I saw nothing, but my heart is still slamming. So that is it. Do not look at the sky at night. I remember the cold, slimy sensation from earlier when my status went strange, and it was no illusion. It was mental pollution from the gaze of some high-level existence sweeping over me. And the only reason I did not suffer a massive sanity crash or drop dead like the people in the channel is that I am buried in a savage camp deep in the jungle. The canopy is sealed tight overhead, leaving me unable to see the full night sky at all. An absurd wave of lingering fear rolls through me. Lucky I am a head-down phone addict, and lucky this camp's location is so considerate. If I had glanced up casually while opening a chest, my name would already be on the death list. I noticed something in the pattern. Most of the survivors reporting normal skies are in open areas, ocean, wasteland, sky islands, while most of the ones screaming warnings are in forests, valleys, and places with cover. It suggests the eyes in the sky do not blanket the world evenly, but favor covered areas where a person has to look up to see anything. Then a colder suspicion surfaces that the newbie announcement urged us to build shelters but never once said to stay indoors at night. People are not persuaded by words. They learn from experience, and once is enough. The infinite survival world is using the first batch of unlucky souls, the ones still wandering at night who happen to look up, as teaching cases. It is a bloody demonstration lesson for all of us, declaring in the bluntest, cruelest way that outdoors at night without a shelter, you cannot even face the sky. And it hammers home how urgently I need to build and bind a safe shelter, not only against beasts, but against the rules and the raw malice woven into this world. This developer is a real piece of work, and I curse under my breath with a whole new appreciation for his crude and effective teaching methods. It takes me a while to remember why I opened the channel in the first place. I slide my finger back through the logs, scrolling for a long time, and I do not find a single discussion of how to carry large amounts of resources or any storage method. Everyone is either terrified of the rules, swapping basic survival tips, or showing off and begging for help with their combat talents. One man claims his talent grows stronger just by sunbathing. Every attribute up a full point today. I tap frantically at his avatar hoping to add him, but no friend option appears, so I give up. I am quietly envious of a child of destiny who wins by doing nothing while I burn my own blood. I scroll on, frowning, wondering whether everyone starts with a backpack, or whether they all found substitutes, or whether something is simply different about me. Then it hits me, belatedly. If this were a universal problem, the channel would already be in an uproar, and the fact that nobody is discussing it means that for most people it is not a problem at all. An absurd but perfectly logical thought flashes through my mind like lightning. Slowly, stiffly, I look down at myself, at my well-defined and completely naked body lit by the campfire. My gaze travels over my chest and abdomen and long legs, finally resting on the one carrying part made especially prominent by my total honesty. No way, right? My mouth twitches on its own. Could it be that because I am not wearing clothes, The bracelet cannot detect any pocket or backpack or satchel as a storage medium, so the inventory function never activated in the first place. I look at the inventory tab still stubbornly reading detecting, and I let out a silent scream at the night canopy. After all this, my grand decision to start out streaking did not only traumatize a tribe of savages, but also bricked my own system functions. A tangle of absurdity, frustration, and helpless amusement wells up in my chest. I tell myself I should have quit that filthy habit of lounging around the house with nothing on ages ago. I sigh and look at my mountain of immovable property and resign myself to my fate. Looks like I find a way myself, since the system is unreliable and streaking means no pockets. The ultimate test of a man starting with nothing but an axe, chewing the last tasteless half of a multi-grain biscuit, and reminiscing about fried chicken and milk tea from before I transmigrated. I study the third-rate web game bracelet on my wrist all over again. This time it does not solve anything, but it does hand me a new discovery. The area channel never shows a head count, but when I open the world channel, that unreadable torrent of information, there are two clear lines of system data tucked into the top corners. The upper left reads the time, day 2, just before 4 in the morning. The upper right reads the current online and surviving count, still almost 10 billion. My spirits lift. The region hides the number, but the world channel shows the total. That means all of us, every last one of nearly 10 billion lucky ones, really are on the same server in the same world. I try to picture how enormous a world has to be to scatter almost 10 billion survivors across it. Everyone starts at least 50 kilometers from the next person, and the math lands somewhere past tens of thousands of times the surface of Earth. That stops being a place you can call vast and rich, and turns into something closer to a universe-sized sandbox. Then I catch myself and wonder why a man who already transmigrated is still burning brain cells on geometry. I shake it off and shove the whole-scale question to the back of my head, where the useless thoughts go. Still, the world channel is worth keeping open. Not for chatting, but for the two numbers it shows me, the total survivors online and the server time. Staring at them gives me a strange deja vu, like I never left some old massive online game at all. In the handful of seconds I watch, the running total quietly drops by more than 300. The grand figure opened at almost 10 billion, an ugly count whose leading pair read 99. Now those front numbers have already slipped to 98, which means more than 100 million people are gone. 100 million. Piled into one heap they would make a mountain range, yet against a cold 10-figure number they register as the barest flicker of a few digits. Numbers really are efficient, cold things, efficient enough to shrug off a genocide this size without changing their tone. I close the world channel with the kind of chill that stays in your spine. If not for the dumb luck of stumbling onto that female savage while she was out restocking, my night would have gone very differently. I trailed her back to this camp tucked under the tree canopy, and that is the only reason I am still counted among the living. My own plan had been to make for the seaside and set up there. Some bored, homesick hour after dark, I would have looked up at the bright moon rising over the water, the way anyone would. After that, there would have been no after, and I would already be part of those flickering digits. So through a chain of pure accidents, I saved my own life. I cut my fist toward the scruffy, non-existent ghost in the air and thank female savage number 1. Once I have enough primal fire saved up, I promise, I will burn her first, with a grateful heart. Sentiment handled, I turn back to reality and call up my status to see how a night of rest and slow burning changed my sheet. My eyes slide past health, past sanity, past satiety, and stop at the very bottom on a line I had never bothered reading. It is a material statistics field tied to the furnace space. It lists ordinary male left legs and right legs stacked 2 apiece, ordinary male arms the same, a pair of fragile soul fragments, and a single greed fragment. There are a couple of reproductive instinct fragments too, and 1 lonely twig. That is odd, because the actual loot piled on the bare ground nearby does not show up in that list at all. The biscuits, the noodles, the water, the wood, the stone, none of them appear. Out of curiosity, I pick up a cup of instant noodles, and the list refreshes instantly with a new line for 1 cup of noodles. I set it down and the line vanishes. I grab a cup in each hand and it reads, 2, so the panel tracks ownership. It counts a thing while it sits in my hand, and drops it the moment it becomes an unowned object on the dirt. Then my thoughts jump to the tags that have been counted for ages, the legs and arms and soul fragments. I am not holding them, and they do not physically exist anywhere, yet they stay on the list. It clicks. Those have already been burned by my primal fire and refined by the furnace into pure conceptual tags. They sit filed away in the conceptual space the furnace carries with it, so the system reads them as part of my talent ability, my bound assets. My eyes light up at the obvious follow-up. If I can burn real materials into tags the same way, that is an infinite inventory sitting right in front of me. Beautiful idea. I kill it about 2 seconds later. For one, my primal fire is nearly bottomed out just from refining 2 savages. Nowhere near enough for a stunt like that. For another, I stand up, summon the physical furnace again, and try to pull the actual wood back out of the twig tag. No matter how I concentrate, my hands stay empty. The tags are abstract concepts, the raw material of raw materials, and they refuse to turn back into physical things. To use them, I have to spend more primal fire and feed them into the smelting function as ingredients for something new. So the furnace is not a storage box at all. It is decomposition and reassembly at the level of concepts, and understanding that deepens my read on my own talent by another notch. Looking at the savage parts and instincts in that list, a hazy blueprint starts assembling itself in my head. Maybe my first genuinely useful furnace creation could be built from exactly this junk. My gaze drifts to the 4 emptied wooden treasure chests nearby, and I walk over and pick one up. A clean system prompt blooms in the center of my vision the instant I do. It has detected an item meeting the basic storage medium standard, an empty wooden treasure chest, and it asks whether I want to bind it to activate the survival bracelet inventory function. So that is how you unlock the backpack. I laugh in tired disbelief and tap no 3 times in a row, then set the chest back down. I have found the root of the problem, but I am not binding anything yet. Partly because that vague, interesting idea about the furnace in these chests is still cooking, and it needs my primal fire to regenerate first. Partly because lugging around a bulky box as my inventory would look ridiculous. A man destined to become a lord of cinders needs an inventory with some style, even if he currently does not own a pair of pants. Better to wait for dawn and save up more fire. I stow the furnace, crawl into one of the cleaner savage shacks, and fatigue rolls over me like a tide. I am asleep almost before I finish lying down. Morning arrives on a chorus of beast roars, wet chewing, and the snap of bones. I slept badly, stretched over rough hides and hay, the air thick with old blood and burnt stench. All night my ears picked up a faint, unsettling rustle from deep in the forest. My upgraded hearing, so useful in a fight, turns into pure torment at times like this. My bracelet says it is the second day, 49 minutes shy of 9 in the morning, which means I got maybe 5 hours. I crawl out rubbing my throbbing temples. Then again, most other survivors are probably worse off. Almost nobody built a decent shelter on their first day out here, and most people are like me, still swinging between civilized shut-in and wilderness animal. I look toward the noise and understand at once what dragged me awake. This is a forest, so wildlife is only natural, and the reek of blood works like the flashiest restaurant sign. Several forest wolves with matted fur and mean eyes have gathered around the savage corpses, tearing and gulping down the flesh. They have decided this unoccupied camp is a free buffet. My temper spikes, because those are my spoils of war, my fuel, and nobody handed these mutts a meal ticket. I bend and lift the stone spear I used the night before. The moment my fingers close on the shaft, a strange familiarity floods up my arm. The crude weapon feels like an extension of my own body, my new hunting and wild instinct skills quietly kicking in. Last night I had to charge up, aim, and nervously line up a backstab. Now I carry the easy composure of a hunter who has done this 100 times. Barefoot on the dewy mud, I move like an actual ghost. And against these ordinary beasts, my lowest presence is absolute. I stroll up to the rear flank of a wolf buried in its meal, flick my wrist without even aiming, and the spear strikes behind its ear like a viper's tongue. The unlucky wolf stiffens and slumps onto the pile of food without so much as a whimper. The others jerk their heads up, nostrils twitching as they scan for the threat, and not one registers the man standing right beside them. I move through them, counting under my breath, like a reaper reading names off a list. Every thrust is fast and accurate and a little rough, but ruthlessly effective. In the space of a breath, 7 or 8 diners have become fresh ingredients. Just as I finish the last one, heavy footfalls and a low growl roll in from the edge of camp. A massive black bear standing over 1.5 meters at the shoulder catches the scent of danger and bolts for the deep jungle, trying to run. My eyes go sharp. I rock back half a step, drive force up through my core, feel my strengthened arm bunch, and hurl the stone spear like a real javelin. It cuts the damp air with a short whistle and buries itself in the back of the bear's skull. The tip pokes out through its gaping bloody mouth. The bear lets out a deafening death rattle, lunges a few more meters on momentum alone, plows through some low brush, and finally crashes down. Bear hide. I am getting a bear hide blanket tonight. I pump my fist and every scrap of my sleepless fatigue evaporates under this windfall. My physical enhancements are no joke. When I test the carcass, it is frighteningly heavy, a conservative 300 kilograms at least. Gritting my teeth, I grab a paw and haul the thing back to the center of camp, inch by stubborn inch. By the end, I am panting, but grinning like an idiot. Next, I sort the mangled wolves out of the savage remains and line them up neatly to one side. Then I freeze. The bloody, mud-caked wolves and the black bear beside them all need skinning and butchering. I raise a hand toward the stone knife on the ground and feel completely out of my depth. It turns out I have no skinning skill and no disassembly skill yet. Last night's refinement gave me hunting and wild instinct. all about finding and killing prey, and nothing about processing the leftovers. The fastest fix would be to refine a female savage who knows how, but I have other plans for today's primal fire, since I want it for the smelting experiment and that creation idea gnawing at me. My eyes bounce between the tidy row of wolves and the shredded savages, and my stomach turns a slow, uneasy circle. These wolves were, just eating. A thought slides through my head and my expression goes distinctly strange. Forget it. Between the hassle of processing them, the fact that I am not short on meat, and a mental hurdle that is honestly a little too tall, I would rather not bother. I might as well let my family in the region reap the benefit instead. I open the trade channel and check the regional prices first. Food, meat above all, is clearly hard currency with wildly inflated numbers, and there is steady demand for basic wood and stone. So I set the terms. One whole forest wolf carcass, roughly 70 to 80 kilograms, in exchange for 20 units of wood, or 10 units of stone, or an equal value in other building materials. I list the 7 wolves one after another, and the system autofills each entry with weight and freshness and skims a small handling fee. The giant bear I keep for myself, because at the very least I want that thick hide off it. Listings done, I open the area channel and spend my one free message on some shameless advertising. I announce that the morning market is open, that I have fresh forest wolf carcasses, each over 70 kilograms, honest prices for all, trading for wood and stone and building materials, act now while supplies last. The message drops into the channel like a stone into a pond. After a beat of silence, the feed rips into motion, an avalanche of shock and flattery and begging. Someone is convinced I raided a wolf den on the morning of day 2. Someone offers to warm my bed since they have nothing else to trade. A survivor freshly gored by a boar thanks heaven and buys meat to save their own life. A jealous fisherman sneers that a few wolves are nothing next to his 30-pound catch, and a civil engineering student pleads to pay in installments or in knowledge. I filter out the noise on reflex, but the handful of genuine thank yous tug the corners of my mouth up. Saving a life beats building a 7-story pagoda, or so the saying goes, and the queasy feeling about what the wolves had for breakfast fades quite a bit. As long as nobody knows what the appetizer was and eating the meat keeps them alive, I choose to call this recycling resources and boosting the regional economy. I close the noisy channel and flip open the trading interface. Sure enough, in that short window, all 7 wolves already read transaction complete, wood and stone sitting there waiting to be pulled. Sold out that fast. Food as hard currency has even stronger buying power than I guessed. I stroke my chin, fully aware I priced the batch too low, and my mood stays level anyway. It is a favor to the family, helping others is its own reward, merit plus 7. I do not extract the goods yet. There is no rush and nowhere to put them, since my backpack still is not online. Business settled. It is time to feed the person. I sit by the campfire and start my second breakfast in the survival world. With no pot to boil water, I gnaw dry instant noodles and wash them down with bottled spring water. The noodle brick is hard and the seasoning powder is deathly salty, but compared to yesterday's coarse-grained biscuits that tasted like sand, this is fine dining. That classic flavor, I gulp more water and feel the warm current spread as the recovery pings tick up my status. This world is generous in one way. Eating fills the stomach and mends health at the same time. I wonder idly whether I will someday cook desserts that top off sanity too. 1 cup down, and the healthy iron cauldron burned out of me last night is basically restored. My sheet holds steady at 122 out of 122, with sanity back to a comfortable place. Being thick-skinned pays. Fed and watered, I make one last careful sweep of the camp for anything I overlooked, and turn up nothing but scattered bones, tattered hides, and worthless stone tools. My gaze ends up back on the wooden racks at the camp's edge. A few incomplete remains in modern clothing are still fixed to the sharp stakes and twisted poses. A night has not made the sight any easier to hold. I fall silent for a few seconds, and breathe deep to press down the discomfort. I told them yesterday I would bury them, but with what I have I truly cannot dig a grave. The next best thing is a cremation. Ashes to ashes. That still beats leaving them here to be gnawed by beasts, or worse, put to use by me. I tear down 2 broken shacks, and add 5 pieces of chestwood, which burns excellently and throws serious heat, building the whole thing into a simple pyre. I take the remains down, one at a time, and lay them out gently, not touching their ragged clothes, which might be their last thread of connection to home. I tell them to go with some dignity. Thinking of my own bare body, I laugh at myself and say they can keep the clothes, since I am used to streaking and it is honestly kind of freeing. I pull a burning branch from the campfire and light the pyre, and the orange flames climb and crackle as they take the pain with them. In the dancing light, it feels like something heavy turns to blue smoke and drifts off into the damp forest air. My bracelet reads 11:47, nearly noon. No more stalling. Time for the first real creation. With a thought, the primitive stone furnace rises in the center of camp. After a night of life burning and the bump to my maximum health, My daily primal fire output has climbed to roughly 1 1/5 sparks. The red flame at the furnace's heart looks a shade more solid than yesterday. First, I want to test a hypothesis. Whether the furnace refines inanimate objects on the same logic as living things. Refining a savage gave me detailed dismantled limbs plus soul and desire. A chest might break down into wooden nails instead. I push an empty wooden treasure chest into the furnace mouth, and the primal fire settles onto it. Refining the savage was a slow decomposition. This is nothing like it. The chest collapses into a small heap of ash almost the instant the flame touches it, startlingly fast, and I feel something extra drop into the conceptual space. The material statistics field confirms it. 1 wooden treasure chest tag, not a pile of wood. My hypothesis holds. Refinement depth tracks the essence of the material. Simple inanimate things like chests or stone axes cost almost no fire and yield a single overall concept tag. No deep dismantling, wonderfully efficient. Living or complex creatures demand far more fire for a deep analysis. One that peels off everything from flesh and blood and bone up to soul and desire and skill fragments. Which means I can burn away anything I do not currently need, anything eating up space, and store it as a compact tag. A super compressed virtual warehouse. They will not pop back out as the original item, but I can spend them as raw materials whenever I want to build something new. No more hesitation. I feed the last 3 empty chests and my 1 excellent iron ingot into the furnace. The flames flicker, and the statistics update to 4 wooden treasure chest tags and 1 iron ingot. That ingot was decent stock for an iron axe, but with no blueprint and no craft it would only rot in storage. So it becomes part of the first creation instead. I focus and reach into the furnace with my intent, switching it to smelting mode. The stone hums low and begins to flow and reshape like liquid. A few seconds later, it has become a heavy, sturdy iron cauldron with a dull metallic gleam, the primal fire burning quietly at its base, and the old ashes banked in one corner. I stare, and then I cannot hold it in, a full 3-stage laugh rolling out of me until I have to cover my face. Primal fire feeding a flaming cauldron. My noise scatters a flock of birds out of the trees, and even my lowest presence seems to hiccup under the outburst. I wipe the laughing tears away, because I see it now. My talent is basically the bonfire and the cauldron from some grim old dark fantasy game, stitched together at the seam. I pray at the iron pot and ask when it plans to send me a flame-tending maiden, or 2, so I can get properly acquainted with the darkness inside them. Jokes are jokes, but I do not joke about serious business. I pull my head straight and go quiet, standing over the iron cauldron and watching the primal fire flicker at its base. Right now it is less a flame than a vortex, a core waiting for concepts to be poured in and woven. I can feel every tag stored in the furnace space like soldiers lined up for deployment. First fusion, begin. My awareness sinks in and starts picking tags. For the structural body, I choose 1 wooden treasure chest, and the iron ingot, the material foundation, the idea of a wooden chest reinforced with iron. To grant it traits, I pulled 2 sets of ordinary male limbs, torso, head, flesh, and bone, lending it the latent concepts of biological form, wholeness, and support. For the crucial part, I add 2 fragile soul fragments, trying to inject a trace of weak spirit. The goal is a magical construct with a flicker of intelligence, rather than a dead object. I throw in 1 greed fragment too, reading it as a desire to collect and store, hoping the thing will actively want to be filled. The reproductive instinct fragments I leave well alone, because using those here would get weird in a hurry. Tags submitted. I take a breath and tell the cauldron to do it. The primal fire flares. The ashes stir without any wind and tangle up into the flame. They spin and rise into a small, scorching, dark red fire tornado inside the pot. Motes of light tumbling and colliding and fusing with a sound like metal grinding against a whisper. Why is it so slow? Refining always finished in seconds, yet fusion drags on like a pot of simmering soup. A full minute passes, and the little tornado is still turning in there with no shape to it. My palms start to sweat, and fine beads break out on my forehead. I picture my iron ingot, my treasure chest tag, my precious soul fragments all going up in smoke. Every second stretches out mean and long. Then I notice a subtle thread linking me to the furnace, as if my own spirit is being drawn along with the tags as they merge. I realize this is not just dump the materials and wait. It is closer to a focused guidance than a shaping. So I push my intent gently into the furnace, and just as my concentration tips into a light trance, the fire tornado detonates without warning, light blasting out in every direction. I flinch, slam my eyes shut, and stumble backward, certain the furnace is blown. My first fusion just went up in a flash and vanished. My heart drops as if I can already hear resources swirling down the drain. I pry my eyes open a crack and peek between my fingers. The light has already pulled back and gone calm. The primal fire has returned to a quiet burn, noticeably smaller now, having eaten a great deal. Where the ashes used to sit at the cauldron's base, an object lies quietly, I lower my hand, walk over and look down. It is a very ordinary wooden treasure chest. It runs about half a meter long and roughly 30 centimeters on the other sides. The wood carries natural grain and a scatter of faint scratches, as though it has weathered some years. The only unusual detail is that all 8 corners in the lock have been carefully wrapped and reinforced with polished dark iron strips. It gives the thing a sturdy, ancient look. No flashy glow, no gaudy trim, just a steady, reliable, faintly worn aura. It looks like an old chest that has sat in the corner of an adventurer's tavern for ages, waiting for someone fated to open it. I stare at it sitting there for a solid 2 minutes. There was no earth-shaking anomaly, no cool spawn animation. It simply appeared, plain as anything. But I can feel it, an extremely faint yet real connection running between me and this chest. It is like an extra hazy branch of perception grafted onto my senses. I crouch, reach out, and cautiously touch the lid, the cool of the wood meeting the hardness of the iron plates. A line of information surfaces in my mind, not from a bracelet scan, but straight through that connection. It tells me the creation is unnamed. Its type a furnace creation, a treasure chest monster, quality excellent. Its traits read like a wish list. There is a space expansion holding roughly 30 slots of stable storage where time flow is nearly static. There is a reinforced ironwood structure not easily destroyed by ordinary means. And there is growth potential, letting it slowly strengthen by eating, absorbing similar storage concepts, or feeding on space attribute materials. Its status is awaiting binding, and its energy supply is simple. It stays active by eating. Information digested, I stay crouched, and my face slides from blank to a tangle of shock and elation and relief. I did it. I actually took a fistful of junk tags and built a magical creation with real spatial storage and a spark of spirit. This is exactly what I need most right now. A genuine backpack I can bind. One that can even move on its own legs. And it looks so ordinary, so forgettable, which in a world this dangerous is a virtue all by itself. After a few seconds, I let out a soft breath and smile, the brightest and most heartfelt smile I have managed since I crossed over. I lean in and tell it gently to stand up, and I give it a name. Mong Mong. Mong Mong answers the command from its maker. The faint scratches across the lid, which looked like planeware, slowly part like sleeping eyelids under my gaze. 4 round, innocent, curious eyeballs open along the front of the lid, rolling until they settle on my face. The lid cracks open a sliver and reveals a row of interlocking, cold-glinting, needle-sharp teeth. Anyone bitten by that would learn firsthand what a comminuted fracture feels like, and after the pain, they could line up to reincarnate. I lean closer and peer in through the gap. What I see makes this former civilized shut-in click his tongue in wonder. Dark red, fleshy inner walls curve like a biological cavity. 4 withered but nimble, slender arms wrap around a thick, wet, forked tongue rising up the center. The whole space brims with the aura of life and yet carries a strange, crude, handmade texture, which fair enough it is. Mong Mong stretches its insides, spreads all 4 arms, and lifts the giant tongue like a person arching their back after a nap. It lets out a vague, sleepy sound like a child just waking, a jarring contrast to that ferocious mouth. A rustle comes from underneath, and 4 equally withered jointed legs unfold from the base and steadily prop the chest up. Fully standing, it towers a good 2.5 meters, throwing a shadow with real presence. It rocks its head side to side and blinks all 4 eyes, as if adjusting to a brand new world and body. Then, like a small animal that has finally recognized its parents, it comes charging at me on all 8 limbs. 4 legs walking and 4 arms flailing for balance. That wet tongue leads the way with clear intent to lick my face. I backpedal fast and throw my arms into an X, telling it to knock it off. A thing fresh off the assembly line does not get to hit its master with a saliva facial on day 1. The service is a touch too enthusiastic. Mong Mong freezes, and all 4 eyes fill at once with unmistakable hurt. It reels the tongue back in, lets the lid sink most of the way shut, and leaves just the tip drooping out pitifully, like a dog that tucked its ears after a scolding. I try a firmer command and tell it to squat. Mong Mong obeys instantly, folding its 8 limbs to lower the box to about a meter, then settling in front of me, 4 eyes tipped up and brimming with dependence. I built this thing with my own 2 hands, out of savage limbs and flesh and soul and desire. A wooden chest and an iron ingot. A strange pride wells up in me. I reach out and pat the lid, which is cool wood with an odd trace of warmth under it. It is, well, unique, but after a while it circles all the way back around to ugly cute. The moment my hand lands, a familiar prompt pops up. It reports a bound creation that meets the advanced storage medium standard, a furnace creation treasure chest monster, and asks whether I want to bind it to expand the survival bracelet backpack function. It really worked. Every experiment and guess I made lined up exactly. Bind. The instant I confirm with a thought, the bracelet on my wrist warms and some invisible link snaps into place between me and Mong Mong. The backpack tab that was grayed out under my status flares to life, reading 0 of 30 slots, bound to a furnace creation. The other line on my sheet updates to describe a rare familiar named Mong. It calls it a living storage entity fused from biological flesh and soul, with basic intelligence and growth potential, absolutely loyal to its creator. It carries 30 built-in slots and can grow slowly by consuming anything that holds energy or concept. 30 grid slots that auto-sort, which spares my order-obsessed brain a lot of grief. My original mental blueprint had actually been the bottomless box from an old game, the one that seemed to open straight into another dimension. But the tags I command right now are nowhere near that tier. I would probably need at least a core tag carrying the concept of space or storage to even brush that artifact class of creation. You walk the path one step at a time, I tell myself, and build the boxes one at a time. I retract the furnace so the dark red ember tattoos flood back across my skin, starting another day of the firewood gathering life. I tell Mong to follow, and it heaves up onto its 8 limbs and trails me like a loyal, faintly unsettling sidekick, clicking and clacking as it goes. We reach the giant bear. I point at the mountain of a corpse and order Mong to put it away, stressing that I mean stored in the storage space, not eat it. Its 4 eyes blink fast with excitement. The lid springs open on those teeth and that eager tongue, and it looks a heartbeat from taking a bite. I stop it cold and tell it not to eat that, because the bear is a strategic resource. The hide, the meat, and the gall, if it even has a gall, all add up to future fur coats, fur blankets, and emergency rations rather than a snack. Mong's motion stalls, its excitement visibly caving in, and the lid drops halfway in sulking protest. I shake my head, drag over the old female savage, and set her in front of it. I tell it to eat this one instead, since women are like fine wine and the older ones only get mellower. My familiar is not picky. If it fits in the mouth, it counts as a supplement. Its 4 eyes flare bright, the 4 arms help, and one roll of the tongue drags the corpse inside. After a stretch of toothaking crunching and swallowing, mostly the sound of bones giving way, the lid closes. Mong sways in contentment, and its frame looks maybe a hair more solid than before. All right, back to work. I point at the supplies strewn everywhere, the wood and stone and everything cracked out of the treasure chests, and tell it to store all of it and sort by category. Mong understands store rather than eat this time. It works fast, lid flipping open, the tongue moving like the most dexterous mechanical arm as it rolls up each item and files it away. It clearly grasps simple sorting, stacking like things in neighboring slots. In under 3 minutes, the whole camp is cleared of everything valuable, leaving only the burning campfire and the corpses I still have to handle. Only then do I sit down to a lazy lunch, dry noodles, and cold water again. I remember the wolf sale payout still parked in the trade channel. A thought triggers the extraction through the bracelet, and because my bound backpack is Mong, the goods teleport straight into its storage space by the rules. I pull up the sheet to survey my fortune. In the furnace space as pure tags, I hold 2 reproductive instinct fragments and a branch. In the actual storage, I now have 102 wood, 47 stone, 10 iron ore, and 1 dose of strange mucus. On top of that sit 6 packs of vacuum-sealed multigrain biscuits, 2 bottles of purified water, 5 cups of instant noodles, and 1 bag of all-purpose seasoning. My raw materials awaiting processing are 1 whole giant bear, 3 fairly intact female savages, and 2 small savage corpses. Somewhere along the way, without noticing, I have turned into a survivor with a little bit of net worth. I look around the camp that gave me my first pot of gold. Less than 2 full days have passed, yet the sheer density of it all makes it feel like a whole life ago. I break down the last shed into wood and feed it to the cremation pyre still burning, a last farewell to the fallen, and the flames climb brighter. Then I pat Mong's lid and tell it we cannot stay here, and we go. In the end, I decide to head back toward the coastline and build my own place from scratch, rather than squat in this ready-made savage camp. The reasons stack up cleanly. First, that watched, needles down the spine feeling from deep in the forest last night still haunts me. A place that looks safe might just mean it is already claimed by something worse. Second, these savages almost certainly have kin, maybe a whole tribe. The day they wander back from visiting relatives to find a new tenant in their home, that tenant would have an enormous problem. Stability first. Find somewhere easy to defend and hard to storm, with an open view and resources within reach. And honestly build a home. Only then will I have the time and safety to develop the furnace and figure out how to survive this hell properly. Mong follows without complaint, understanding the order to leave. It pulls its 4 arms back into the chest and strides on just its 4 legs. Its steps a touch lighter. I set off toward the coast on memory and a sense of direction. Right before I step into the jungle, I smack my forehead, because I almost forgot something. I trot back to the campfire, summon the furnace, and take a thick burning branch as a makeshift torch. I carefully hold the unburned end to the primal fire. Just like refining inanimate objects, the branch vanishes the instant it meets the flame, leaving 2 new tags behind, 1 for torch and 1 for burning. I light up, because even a torch refines into a storable tag. That means future fire is no longer a chore of drilling sticks or nursing embers. I just toss a wood tag and a burning tag into the furnace, fuse them, and out comes a fresh torch. My talent really is a part-time workbench. Delighted, I do the same to the last few burning pieces of wood from the campfire, refining them into tags. The primal fire cost is negligible, a fine trade for on-demand fire whenever I want it. That done, I do not look back. Mong in tow, I step firmly onto the forest path and follow the sound of crashing waves. It is a little after 3 in the afternoon when I break out of the sparse bushes onto the coastline. Back at the edge of the world I first saw, the warm gold sand meets my feet as I pull a lungful of clean sea air, and a good chunk of the weight on my chest lifts. My gaze sweeps the wide beach, the swaying coconut palms, the jagged reefs in the distance, and a thought arrives all on its own. I turn to the tall, dim-witted Mong beside me, a mischievous smile tugging at my mouth. I tell it to hurry up, since now is its moment to be useful. It should go collect everything worth grabbing on the beach, the stones, flint, twigs, shells, and crabs, and above all keep 4 eyes peeled for any freshly spawned treasure chests. Mong blinks all 4 eyes, points one hesitant arm at itself, and leans its whole boxy body back, broadcasting pure confusion. It is asking whether I actually mean it should do the work. Obviously, why else would I have made it to stand around as a mascot? Its master has weightier duties now, namely scouting a prime location for our future home, so grunt-level gathering falls to a diligent helper. Mong lets out a low, reluctant sound that comes off a lot like a sigh. It cannot defy its creator, so it turns and trudges toward the beach on all 8 limbs, glancing back the whole way with resentment shining in its eyes, plainly hoping I will change my mind. I shout after it to get going with no slacking, to stay safe, and to keep within 50 meters of me. I watch it start working, clumsy but efficient, rolling stones up with its tongue and plucking twigs with its little hands. It even tries to trap scuttling crabs by dropping its chest body over them, and I cannot help a smug little laugh. Using a soul as the core was clearly the right call. The intelligence is online and it grasps orders without trouble. A tool with self-awareness that runs on its own is a good tool, far more efficient than me sweating alone. A grand blueprint with the unmistakable stink of an evil capitalist unfurls in my head. I clench a fist and shout from the depths of my soul toward the sea and the hardworking box, declaring that I have decided I am going to refine more helpers. Off in the distance, Mong, mid-struggle with a snapping crab, pauses imperceptibly. It seems to glance my way and let a deeper, more complicated sigh drift out through the crack in its lid. I stroll the coast enjoying the sea breeze and skimming the area channel, which has thrown itself into one obsession: building materials. The whole feat is a brawl. Fish sellers push tilapia and grouper and squid for foundation stones. Land dwellers bash wood as worthless, and everyone cries for stone and iron ore that nobody has a pickaxe to dig. Last night's look up and die lesson clearly rang the alarm. People finally understand the 7-day newbie protection period is not a vacation but a countdown, and the shelter has to go up now. The world's malice has not arrived yet, but the market's malice beat it here. Wood is easy to get and defends poorly. Stone is hard to get and trades like gold, and that supply curve is more honest than the pork rib rice back in a university cafeteria. I call back over my shoulder for Mong to keep up and stop obsessing over its crabs. Having a helper really is great. I am starting to grasp what it means to graduate from laborer to foreman. I amble down the coastline as easily as a walk through my own backyard, glancing left and right, quietly grading every potential threat while admiring the blue of sea and sky. I move less like a man surviving a hostile world and more like a tourist on a state-funded vacation. Behind me, Mong gurgles along, its 8 thin limbs stamping alien landing footprints into the sand. Its 4 round eyes stay wide open as it vacuums up small stones, broken shells, dry twigs, and any little sea creature stranded in the shallows. The world's most dedicated robot vacuum. I flick up my status for a look. Health sits at 120 of 122, sanity at 87 of 115, satiety at 105 of 110. There have to be faster ways to restore sanity than just resting somewhere safe, I mutter. The palpitations from being watched by that unknown thing last night still chill my back, even now, standing in full sun. Between that and a rough night in the original Flavor Savage tent, with the meaty, burnt, bloody smell that seems glued inside my nose, my mind has been under real pressure. At least life and food are not problems for the moment. My body and mind have each ticked up only a little, but the lightness in my limbs and the clearness in my head are real, like adding memory to an old computer. I breathe deep and let the cool, salty air chase off the last of the fatigue. Vacation over, back to business, because picking where to settle is the decision that separates a seaside villa from a savage buffet booth. Surveying a coastline is nowhere near as simple as a stroll. As a compulsive base builder who used to raise impregnable, self-sufficient fortresses in games, I rattle off a set of client-grade demands in my head. First, fresh water is the lifeline and the bottom line. The bottled stuff from the chests lasts a few days at most, so I need a stable source. Second, natural defense, because the 7 safe days end, and then the world's malice comes calling. Terrain that is easy to hold and hard to breach doubles my odds. Third, distance from the forest edge, since the savage tribe is a living warning that the woods are lively and unfriendly. I do not want old friends picnicking at my door each morning. Fourth, an open view, to spot danger from land or sea early and to read the tides and weather. Fifth, full resource support, ideally with a steady food supply nearby like shellfish and seafood in the reefs. And if there were a patch of workable land too, well, who does not dream of a cozy little farm? Listing all that, I laugh at myself. Am I scouting a shelter or scouting the site for a 5-star resort? But my eyes firm up right after, because jokes aside, the announcement makes it very likely I am the only survivor within 50 kilometers. I will live here a long time, maybe the rest of my life, and home is the one thing I refuse to compromise on. Let's do it. I shout at Mong Mong to quit loafing and get back to gathering. The thing has actually started poking the sand with one leg out of boredom. A suspiciously high level of intelligence for a chest to be slacking off the second the boss looks away. I add that it should keep its eyes sharp and report anything special like a treasure chest. If it gets hungry, it can just take a small one out of storage and eat it. Mong Mong gurgles agreement, promptly fishes a small savage corpse out of its box, stuffs it into the mouth and starts crunching away with its 4 eyes squinted in bliss. My mouth twitches. It seems I really cannot dodge the savages forever, or my pet's rations become a genuine problem. I suppose this counts as launching a sustainable overfishing operation ahead of schedule, and so one man and one box begin the serious work of site selection. After 700 or 800 meters, the coast opens onto an enormous beach over 100 meters wide. Sand fine and white as sugar slides into sparse palms and shrubs, and the waves here are unusually gentle, hushing in and out with a soothing sound. It would make excellent white noise for sleep. Great view, flat ground, low build difficulty, easy material transport, I grade in my professional by self-declaration voice. But there is not a single natural barrier and guests could stroll in from any direction. This is less a home and more an open pavilion doubling as a live fire target range for monsters. I squat and scoop a small pit in the sand, and in under half a minute murky seawater seeps into the bottom. The water table is too high and the foundation would be a headache. The shelter is probably upgradable once bound and may not care about an ordinary base. But what if the system rules the ground is not solid enough and drags on the upgrade? Or what if this cursed world decides to throw a tsunami? I look out at the flat calm sea and shake my head. In a survival world, any kind of weirdness is on the table, and being thorough never hurts. Rejected. Moving on. Another 700 or 800 meters and the terrain shifts. The beach pinches down as a dense mangrove crowds right to the waterline, its tangled breathing roots bared to the air, a sign the tides here swing hard. I stand near the edge for less than a minute before dozens of huge, viciously patterned mosquitoes come screaming at me like a bomber wing. My furnace's residual fire force field bats every one of them away, but the dense whine is double torture on my ears and my nerves. No, absolutely not. Settling here would mean staging a nightly production of the War of the Mosquitoes, my sanity draining faster than my blood. Pass. Still, I file a note that the mangrove ecosystem is rich, an excellent pantry for shellfish and crabs, worth coming back to restock. Another half hour of trekking and the ground turns rugged. Great slabs of pitch-black reef rear out of the water like the fangs of some giant beast, forming a maze of an intertidal field. I climb the nearest reef carefully, its surface slick with moss and studded with hard barnacles, though my movements now carry the ease of a mountain gorilla. The plastic flip-flops I happen to transmigrate and creak their complaints against the rough stone, and they clearly do not have many days left in them. From the top, the view blows open. Boundless blue sea ahead, rolling black reefs to the left, and to the right the beach and mangrove I already crossed. Most striking, the reef field runs inland and joins a tall cliff. It stands maybe 17 or 18 meters high, solid rock, curving into a natural arc-shaped recess by the water. It looks like half of a carefully carved giant bowl set at the seam of sea and land, with deeper mountains rising behind it. My eyes light up on a hunch. I hop off the reef and walk fast toward the cliff, and as I close the distance, the whole layout comes clear. This is a gifted piece of ground. A solid, low rock cliff backs the site, weathered but structurally stable. It runs left until it drops and merges into the impassable reefs, and it runs right for a few dozen meters before dense bushes take over and connect to the vast mountain forest. Facing the sea sits a fairly level stretch of sand and rock about 30 meters wide, neither as soft as pure beach nor as stubborn as bare stone. Then comes the discovery that kicks my heartbeat up. At the base of the cliff, a crystal-clear trickle seeps from the rock crevices, pooling in a hollow into a clear basin the size of a washbowl. From there it slides to the sea down a natural stone groove. The flow is small, maybe a few hundred milliliters a minute, but the pool bottom is clean sand and stone with no algae or rot. I crouch, cup a little, and sniff, catching only the fresh scent of rock and earth. Then I touch the tip of my tongue to it and taste a crisp, faintly mineral note. Fresh water. It really is fresh water. I keep my voice down and swallow the excitement. It has a bit of a mineral tang, but it is absolutely drinkable, and safer still once boiled. The water problem is solved. I run the whole picture together in my head. A solid cliff for a rear wall, the reef sealing the left, a bush buffer on the right for early warning, and only the 30-meter front to defend seriously. Add a stable water seep, low defensive pressure, real distance from the jungle, and a wide sea-facing view. Wait, it feels like there is one more surprise here. I hold the excitement and walk a little farther right along the curving cliff wall, and my feet stop. In the shadow where the wall meets the ground, half hidden behind vines and bushes, a pitch-black cave mouth quietly comes into view. A naturally formed grotto. The opening is not large, about a person tall, its interior deep and dark and impossible to read. But it is unmistakably a ready-made and excellent starter home. Maybe even the perfect seed for an underground base someday. I stand before the black mouth like a rookie about to descend a mine, half eager and half braced for some monster to come lunging out of the dark. The entrance runs about 2 meters high and 1.5 meters wide, the passage past it swallowed whole by black. I glance back. Mong is crawling over on its 8 limbs, click-clacking along, lid cracked with a scrap of undigested remains and suspicious liquid dangling out, gurgling like an overworked dishwasher. Still eating. I press a hand to my forehead and tell it to get over here, and mind its image, since we are property owners now and should not eat so savagely. Mong slurps the mess back inside, scuttles to my feet, and blinks up all innocence, as if it had been dining with impeccable manners. I do not charge in. First rule of wilderness survival, borrowed straight from gaming, is that you scout an unknown cave before you explore it. Otherwise you get a game over before the opening cutscene even finishes. I check around the mouth. There is clear weathering and a thin film of moss outside, but a surprisingly dry interior with no seep or damp. Some scattered gravel dots the floor, yet no beast tracks and no droppings, at least none fresh or large. No permanent residence, so it is safe for now. I crouch, weigh a stone in my hand, and hurl it hard into the dark with my strengthened arm. It bounces 4 or 5 times, the sound rolling from near to far before a dull final thud echoes and fades. Depth around 10 to 15 meters, and by the echo the inner space is not small and the floor is probably fairly flat. I clap the dust off my hands. First I have to fix the lighting because I cannot go in blind. I summon the furnace and take out 2 standard pieces of wood. I add 1 block of animal fat that appeared in my backpack at some point without my noticing, my labor being invisible to you, plus the torch concept tag from the furnace space. Following the same method that built Mong, I sketch a simple blueprint, a wooden handle plus combustible material, and tell it to smelt a basic torch. I feed the materials in and hold in my mind the image of a sturdy long-burning torch. The dark red primal fire sways, ash and flames swirl together, and the ancient runes on the furnace shimmer. About 15 seconds later the light gathers and a crude but solid torch floats out. It is straight-handled, its head thickly coated in hardened grease, done and vastly better than rubbing sticks together. The torch sits heavy in my hand. I take out a piece of flint and a piece of iron ore, since I have no proper striker and have to improvise. After a few hard strikes, the sparks jump onto the grease, and the flame catches, steady and bright. It drives the gloom back from the mouth and throws my shadow and Mong's long across the rock wall. I tell Mong to take point. Its 4 eyeballs glint eerie red in the firelight, but it does not hesitate, crawling in first on all 8 limbs as my chest shield scout. I pull a deep breath and follow it in. The cave runs a few degrees cooler than outside, carrying a dry scent of dust and faint minerals. It is not unpleasant so much as quiet, a secluded from the world kind of hush. I study the walls by torchlight as I move, reading hard sedimentary rock with no obvious cracks or seep points. A solid structure, a good sign. 10 steps in, the passage suddenly opens up. I raise the torch and turn a slow circle. It is an irregular oval room, maybe 15 meters at its longest, 10 at its widest, near 4 meters tall. That is roomy enough for an adult to stand and move, without feeling boxed in. The floor is fairly flat before a few stones drop from the ceiling, and the walls carry several natural indentations, ready-made niches for storing things later. The discovery that surprises me most sits in the depths, a naturally formed stone platform about half a meter off the ground. It is rough on top but exceptionally level, with enough area for a grown man to lie down comfortably. A built-in stone bed. It even saves me the trouble of making legs. I laugh, climb up, and test it, and it is hard but rock solid. My bear hide blanket finally has a home, a serious upgrade from the pile of skins and grass at the savage camp, with the bonus of no strange smells. I hop down and keep exploring, and in the right-hand corner the torchlight catches a finger-thin crack in the rock. When I lean close, I feel a trace of cool air breathing out of it, a ventilation vent. I perk right up, because airflow means no stuffiness, no damp, no pooling of harmful gas, and the comfort of long-term living just skyrocketed. This grotto's floor plan is almost too thoughtful. I check every corner like the pickiest home inspector alive. No bat guano, no lair signs, no strange fungus or moss. The place is clean as a freshly handed over unit, but for the sand we tracked in. Safe. My tight nerves finally loosen a notch. Next comes building the feeling of a home. In the center, I stack a few large stones into a simple campfire base, arrange wood into a cone, and light it with the torch. The orange flames rise, bringing light and warmth, and item information surfaces. It tells me this is a campfire, a common quality facility and light source. It provides illumination and warmth, and within a bound shelter it raises sanity recovery by 1 an hour, so long as I keep feeding it fuel. There is a note to mine the carbon monoxide and stay ventilated. Campfires boost sanity recovery. Good stuff. It confirms that a safe environment steadies the mind. Then I wrinkle my nose, because the smoke is already pooling in the half-enclosed space. The vent carries some off, but the smell is strong enough that it will sting my eyes before long. I should turn this into a proper fireplace later. I need a long-term lighting fix, since I cannot lean on the campfire forever, and want something cleaner. My eyes brighten as I remember how flexible the furnace is. I summon it again, but this time I am not after another torch. I feed in a single stone and the torch tag, and I concentrate on the image of a stone that glows on its own. Stable, long-lasting, fuel-free. It is the kind of self-lit stone you see in a fantasy game. I tell it to smelt a long-lasting light source. The furnace fire dims toward blue, tiny points of light gathering in the ash, and this one takes longer. After about 3 minutes, a fist-sized stone floats out, its surface smooth and warm, soft white light flowing inside it. I pick it up, and it is faintly warm to the touch. The panel names it a luminous stone, an excellent quality item and light source, an ore holding stable light elements. It steadily emits soft white light over a range of about 3 meters for roughly 7 natural days. After that, it recharges by sitting in sunlight or taking a small injection of energy. Within a shelter, it slightly lifts comfort and indirectly aids sanity recovery, though the panel notes such effects from similar light sources do not stack. Only the highest applies. A clean energy lamp, an excellent quality at that. I turn it over in my hands. Delighted. Its glow is not the harsh flicker of a torch, but a stable, gentle, milky white that hands the grotto an instant sense of calm. Make a few more. Light this place up. I smelt 3 more by the same method and placed them apart. One just inside the entrance, one by the stone platform, one near the vent. With 4 luminous stones running at once, the soft white light braids together and brings the whole grotto up bright. No smoke, only the faint mineral fragrance the stones give off. Comfortable. This is what a place fit for a person to live should look like. I nod, satisfied, and put the furnace away so the ember tattoos flood back over me with their steady warmth. I walk to the stone platform, sit, and switch on evaluation mode to grade my future home in full. The terrain defense is basically maxed, a single entrance grotto that is easy to hold and hard to storm. There is a theoretical risk of being sealed in, but the narrow mouth can be reinforced with obstacles and camouflage from outside. The structure is solid, hard, dry rock with no seep or collapse, and a few wooden support pillars would add psychological comfort if nothing else. Ventilation is good thanks to the natural vent, and space is ample enough to split into sleeping, storage, and work zones, with those niches as excellent shelving. Resource support is excellent too. The water seep close, the beach and walking range for food and salt and respawning chests, mountain forest at my back for wood and prey and herbs. Concealment is strong, the place tucked in a cliff recess and screened by reefs and shrubs. The downsides are thin. The single entrance means that if it is blocked, I am a turtle in a jar, so I should plan an emergency exit. Maybe dig a back way out later. The stone might run cold in winter, though the campfire and my ember form handle that. The space is fixed and cannot grow on its own, though upgrading the shelter should solve it. So really there are no meaningful downsides at all. Overall rating, an SSS tier rookie godhouse. I slap my thigh. This is the one. Any more picking and I am just being pretentious. I stand and walk to the mouth, where the sky outside has gone to twilight, only the last dark red bleeding off the sea. Time waits for no one, and I am installing a door tonight. I take out 8 wood, 6 stone, and that jar of strange mucus. No nails, no hinges, but I have universal adhesive. I build low stone piers on either side of the entrance as doorpost footings, then piece together a rough but sturdy frame from the wood. I smear the mucus like cement into every joint and gap, where it sets fast and shockingly strong. An hour and change later, a simple thick wooden fence door sits snug in the mouth. A perfect fit, and by then it is fully dark outside. I wipe the sweat I am not actually sweating off my brow and inspect the work by luminous stone light. Good enough to keep out wild dogs, and good enough to buy some time while the female savages chew through it. I pull up the shelter interface that had been grayed out. Now it is live, plain in style. A bind shelter option centered with a blank field below. I lay my hand on the fresh door and concentrate, telling it to bind this place as my shelter. The system detects a bindable structure that meets the rules, the simple fence door and the space it encloses. It asks whether I want to bind the building in its area as my personal shelter. Yes. It runs through binding and rule coverage and area confirmation, then reports success. It congratulates survivor Dang Surin on establishing his first shelter and wishes it a solid wall against the world's malice, and tells me the shelter information has updated. I check the details at once. It is unnamed and renameable. Level 0. A simple grotto. Durability 100 out of 100. Defense value 5, which is better than nothing. Comfort reads 2, probably the +2 from the campfire and luminous stones. Its special effects are basic wind and rain shelter and weak sanity recovery of 1/10 a minute. The upgrade to level 1 costs 100 wood, 50 stone, and 5 iron ore. The area radius runs about 10 meters centered on the door, covering the grotto and a slice of the entrance. It really can be upgraded. My eyes light, then I glance at my inventory, where I have only 30-something wood, a dozen or so stone, and a measly 3 iron ore. Not nearly enough. Tomorrow I will send Mong hunting for ore veins nearby, or barter on the trade channel. I step inside and close the fence door, my front door now. Its latch a thick twig I whittled down, simple and effective. Sitting on the stone platform, the cold hard surface under me, I feel an unfamiliar peace settle in. This is my territory, recognized and protected by the rules of the survival world. I eat a careless dinner, still noodles and biscuits, still missing a hot meal, then sit by the fire and open the area channel. The feed scrolls its usual river of dread. People who cannot start a fire and fear freezing. Someone offering 20 wood for a single flint. Warnings that the survivors in the snow mountain regions are about done for. Someone is baffled that they cannot bind a shelter after building a shed. And someone else has watched their sanity drop into a panic spiral. Scanning it, I see how many are still stranded on the line between living and dying, without even basic fire or shelter. So I spend today's speaking slot on a bit of genuine help. I share that the trick is to find a natural shelter like a cave or grotto, or to wall off your own enclosed space with a roof. I tell them I sealed a cave mouth with a simple wooden stone fence door, and the system accepted it as a bindable shelter. I add that a campfire inside a bound shelter really does recover sanity slowly. The adhesive I used came out of a treasure chest and is called Strange Mucus. Offered for reference, good luck to all. The message sets off ripples the moment it lands. An avalanche of disbelief that I fixed a shelter by day 2. Questions about which chest drops mucus. Relief that sanity is recoverable at all. A chorus of people beg for my coordinates so they can come join me. I watch the envy and the questions and the leg-hugging scroll past, my mouth curling, feeling a little smug but mostly just fortunate. Join me. It is at least 50 kilometers off, so they had better make sure they survive to the day we could ever meet. I close the channel and my gaze falls to the side of the platform. Mong has somehow tucked all its limbs away, lid shut tight, and 4 eyes closed, dropped into an energy-saving standby that makes it look like nothing more than a slightly old chest. So my helper is not a perpetual motion machine either, and it needs rest to recover its health and mana. I smile. Tomorrow. I lean back against the cold stone wall, watching the mottled shadows the luminous stones throw across the rock overhead, and let my thoughts drift out far. I should try refining those female savages and see whether I can pull skills like gathering, skinning, or even cooking out of them. With a talent, a helper, and a shelter, mere survival should be no problem now. What comes next is getting stronger, exploring, and then, well, I let the thought trail off into a low, scheming chuckle. I close my eyes and feel the warmth of myself being slowly burned, the cycle of my own life ebbing away by degrees and being topped back up by degrees, and sleep takes me. The third day arrives just past 6 in the morning. The grotto still steeped in the last dimness before dawn. The campfire is long dead, only the luminous stones giving off a soft shimmer. It barely outlines the platform, the wall niche, and the shape of Mong curled in the corner in standby. On the stone bed, my eyes snap open, chest heaving from the jolt of waking. I push myself upright on the hard surface and rub my sore, sleep-starved eyes, wishing hard that I could wake up and find the whole transmigration was a dream. I pull up my status, and a translucent screen surfaces in the dim light. The numbers sharp. Health at 107 of 128. Sanity at 98 of 118. Satiety at 88 of 110. I let out a low sigh that rings hollow in the quiet grotto. This blood-burning debuff is genuinely life-threatening, and I keep dreading that if I oversleep even a little, it will drain me all the way out. I have developed a full health anxiety, the same nerves I used to get needing a full magazine in a shooter game. Staring at health that fell another dozen overnight, I can almost hear the primal fire inside me crackling as it tirelessly burns me. The firewood, though the sound is purely in my head. Reluctantly, I roll off the platform onto the cool stone floor. Mong, sensing the black-hearted capitalist stir, has already woken on its own. Its 8 thin spider legs scrape softly across the floor, while its 4 round eyes dart around the lid. Hearing me move, it scuttles over like a little sycophant and nuzzles my calf with the cold hard edge of its wooden lid. A vague, dependent purr rumbles up from whatever passes for its throat. I tell it not to be so clingy this early and call it gross. But even as I complain, I raise a hand and wrap the lid with measured force, my fingers finding that odd texture of wood mixed with reinforcing metal. It is my first creation after all, and its place in my heart is probably a bit like a castaway's first and only dog. I turn to the reassuring fence door, push it open a crack, and look out. The sky has already begun to pale. The waves lap tirelessly at the black reefs with a soothing rhythmic hush, and a crisp, salted breeze slips through the gap into the grotto. 3 days already. I have probably half turned into a savage myself. I breathe in a deep draft of the vibrant morning air, and most of the tightness in my chest and the last of my drowsiness lift off. A new day, new brick hauling. I push the door open and let the sea breeze hit me full in the face. First a sacrifice to my stomach, then tribute to my talent. I tell Mong breakfast, and it obediently lifts its lid and rolls out 2 cups of instant noodles and a bottle of mineral water on its tongue. I take them and start chewing the dry, hard noodle brick straight, chasing each bite with cool water. The numbers on my sheet jump and recover as health and satiety come back up. All right, time to work. I compose myself, my eyes going focused, because with a full stomach it is time for the skill I am calling open blind box. A thought calls up the furnace, its primal fire burning quietly at the core. The flame looks more solid and vigorous than yesterday, maybe 1 1/3 clusters now, its leaping tongues throwing a warmth that is reassuring and heart-searing in equal measure. Let's start with the experience packs and see what practical skills these female savages drop for me. I rub my hands together like a gamer about to pull cards, take out a fairly intact female savage corpse and push it in without hesitation. The flames surge up and wrap the body gently but efficiently, no horror show. 3 or 4 seconds later, it has gone to nothing but a small handful of ash and a prompt. It lists the tags I obtained, an ordinary female left leg and right leg, and some black hair among them, plus a fragile soul fragment and a reproductive instinct fragment. Then comes the good part, experience skills auto-absorbed, gathering at F rank, cooking at F rank, weaving at F rank. It throws in a small attribute bump too, 3 maximum health, 1 maximum sanity, and a sliver each of stamina and spirit. At almost the same moment, a gentle warm current rises from somewhere deep in my core, wherever a cultivator is supposed to keep one. It flows out through my limbs and bones, carrying a faint sense of strengthening and an odd new familiarity with my surroundings. I glance without thinking at a scrap of unremarkable moss in the corner, and a thought pops up on its own, that it is gatherable and may hold trace water or medicinal value. Gathering, cooking, and weaving. 3 practical skills right out of the gate, and gathering and cooking are exactly the 2 I lack most. One strips the environment efficiently, the other turns miserable ingredients into real food and ends the dark age of dry noodles. Keep going, let's see if I can pull skinning or disassembly. I toss in the second female savage. The flames flicker, and the prompt returns with tags for blonde hair and golden eyes and the usual soul and instinct fragments. The skills this time are gathering at F rank, disassembly at F rank, and herb identification at F rank. Disassembly came out. I cannot help a low, delighted shout, because with disassembly I will stop fumbling through prey. I can wring the most material out of every carcass instead of wasting it, a god-tier skill for the early game. Herb identification is a keeper too, since I could find my own medicine the day I get injured or poisoned. The third corpse goes in, its tags including extra long hair and blue eyes, and it yields gathering again, cooking and trap making at F rank. Trap making, not bad at all, because now I can fight dirty, and there are few joys like waiting for the hair to run itself into the stump. I am quite pleased with this 10 pull. The 3 experience packs consumed, I pull up the sheet to tally the haul. My maximum health now reads 130, maximum sanity 121, stamina and spirit both nudged up to 5.8. My skill list reads gathering at F rank 3%, cooking at F rank 2%, weaving at 1%, disassembly at 1%, herb identification at 1%, and trap making at 1%. The attributes barely moved, but mosquito legs are still meat, and every one of those skills is a solid upgrade to my quality of survival. I clench a fist and feel the difference at once. As my gaze sweeps the beach and bushes outside, I can pick out which stones might be flint, which plants might be useful. where small tracks cross the sand. All of it seems to highlight itself, the boost to environmental perception from gathering landing immediately. Skills in place, next comes practice, processing that bear. A thought lifts the giant black bear out of storage, and it drops onto the open ground before the grotto with a heavy thud. A thick reek of blood floods out, the dead thing still radiating an unsettling weight. I pick up the stone axe leaning against the wall, weigh it, and set it back down. No. Butcher a bear with this and I would be hacking until nightfall, and ruining all the good parts. I frown, because a craftsman who wants to work well must first sharpen his tools. It is time to show real technique and forge proper gear on the spot. I take 2 pieces of iron ore and 1 of wood from storage. In my mind, I build a blueprint, a heavy, sharp, multi-purpose blade suited to large game, ideally with a few hooks and serrations. Smelt, a professional disassembly knife. The furnace flames snap into a small golden vortex and pull the ore and wood in. The sizzle of smelting rises as I catch the faint shapes of metal being refined and formed. About 30 seconds later, the light fades and a knife floats out and settles into my hand. Simple in design, but carrying a sharp, capable air. The panel names it a multi-purpose disassembly knife, excellent quality, a tool built for large animals. It raises disassembly efficiency by 30% and material yield by 15%, at 50 durability. Its heavy blade is made for driving force, its edge sharp and long-lasting, its spine set with hooks and serrations to handle skinning, deboning, and cutting all at once. Excellent quality again. I heft the knife and the weight sits solid and true in my grip, its edge catching the morning light with a cold shimmer. Now this is what it should look like. I walk over to the giant bear's carcass, take a deep breath, and swallow down the small wave of unease that comes with processing prey this size for the first time. Then I focus my mind and trigger the disassembly skill I just picked up. And in an instant, a strange new feel and vision settle over me. My knife hand seems to carry a muscle memory that was never mine. As my eyes sweep the body, the joint connections, the fascia lines, and the exact angle and depth for every cut, all rise naturally into my head. I stop hesitating. My wrist works the disassembly knife with a steadiness I did not earn, my motions sliding from clumsy and awkward into something smooth and precise. The blade glides along the fascia and bone seams, cutting and peeling and separating while it steers clear of the big vessels and organs. The whole thing runs a little slow, because my skill is still low, but it is unmistakably professional, worlds apart from the mess I made of that wolf carcass before. This is what a real skill does. It drags you across a line from amateur to pro in a single afternoon. About 20 minutes in, the massive carcass lies neatly broken down. There is a complete thick black bear hide peeled off almost without a scratch, several fat marbled slabs of bright red black bear meat, and a pile of hard bear bones. Beside those sit a dark brown gallbladder giving off a faint bitter smell, 4 thick plump bear paws, and a heap of organs and fat. A detailed panel floats up beside each pile, and I read them off greedily. The complete black bear hide comes back. Excellent, thick and tough, worth 15 points of warmth and 5 of defense once I tan it properly. The black bear meat is excellent too, rich in protein and fat, good for 15% health recovery, 20% satiety, and a temporary point of strength for an hour. The bones are only common, useful as tool or weapon blanks. The gallbladder rate's rare, a precious medicinal ingredient that clears heat and sharpens eyesight. And the bear paws come back rare as well, a top-tier delicacy that needs special cooking, promising 30% health recovery, 25% satiety, and every attribute lifted by 2 for 2 hours. I am rich. My eyes practically shine at the spread in front of me, because apart from the bones, every single thing here is rare quality, and that is a filthy profit. Bear paws, the legendary mountain delicacy nobody back home could afford, and here I am achieving bear paw freedom in a survival world. I send Mong Mong off to store everything except the hide, then start on the hide itself, since it has to be scraped clean of leftover fat and meat scraps before it will keep. I find a stone slab with a sharp edge to serve as a workbench, spread the hide out flat, and settle in to scrape it patiently with a disassembly knife. The work is tedious and slow, but I do not rush it, and while my hands stay busy, I plan out the days ahead. The shelter needs upgrading. Wood is easy and stone is a few pieces short, but the real bottleneck is iron ore, so I will need Mong Mong hunting veins nearby or watching the trade channel. I need better tools, because the stone axe deserves retirement, and I want an iron axe, a pickaxe for quarrying, and a rod for fishing, all of which run on iron. I need a stable food source instead of leaning on treasure chests and hunting, which means scouting reliable fishing spots or even opening a little plot of land to plant something later. And I need to map the safety range and threats within a few kilometers of the cave. Fast, because the newbie protection period will not last much longer. An hour later, the hide is roughed out and much firmer to the touch, so I lay it flat on the stone platform to dry. It It is nearly noon, which means lunch, and more importantly, the first real test of my cooking skill. I break a few straight twigs off the nearby bushes, sharpen one end of each into skewers, thread on chunks of fresh black bear meat, and rekindle a small campfire outside. The moment the meat goes over the flame, a chef's intuition floods my mind. It is not that I never knew how to cook. It is that this instant, bone-deep understanding is genuinely uncanny. The heat, the exact second a face needs turning, the perfect moment to add seasoning for maximum aroma. All of it feels innate. I take out the bag of universal seasoning, time it precisely, and shower evenly over the sizzling, darkening meat. Grease drips into the fire and it flares up, throwing off a rich, maddening, meaty scent laced with the char of fat and the sharp bite of the seasoning. It is the kind of smell that would make any creature within range start drooling. I catch myself swallowing hard and keep a tight grip on the heat the way my instinct tells me to. About 10 minutes later, the roast comes off the fire, its surface a beautiful golden char, grease still bubbling faintly, steam rising off it. The panel names it roasted black bear meat, excellent quality, worth 20% health recovery, 25% satiety, and a temporary 2 points of strength for an hour and a half. The description praises it as crisp outside and tender within, juices locked in, seasoning perfect, the ingredients' own flavor and effects amplified. The numbers went up. Raw meat gave me 15% health and 1 point of strength, but roasted it jumped to 20% and 2. That means cooking does not just make food taste better, but it strengthens the buffs the food carries. That pleasant little discovery is worth more than the meal itself. I blow on it, take a huge bite, and my teeth punch through the crackling char into meat so tender and juicy it nearly melts. The scalding juice bursts salty and rich across my tongue with no gamey edge at all, only pure satisfaction. It is delicious enough that I nearly tear up, because this is the first proper hot meal I have eaten since I got dumped into this godforsaken place. Every anxious, exhausted, tense day of the past few seems to heal a little under one solid mouthful. My only real regret is that the communication channel will not let me send pictures, or I would be rubbing this in everyone's faces back home. I wolf down the rest and let out a satisfied belch. On my status bar, my health snaps back to full. My satiety climbs into the healthy range, and a strength overflow buff icon lights up on top of it all. I pat my stomach, feel the warm current and the surge of power running through me, and look out at the shimmering sea and the unknown jungle beyond with actual motivation for once. Fed and watered, it is time to work, and today's target is iron ore. I wipe my mouth, stand up, and knock on my chief pal's cold lid. I tell Mong its quota for the day is sweeping the coastline for flint, seashells, and seaweed, and above all using those 4 big beautiful eyes to find me any freshly spawned treasure chests. I tell it to get moving, and I nearly call it by the wrong name before I land on Mong. It answers with a vague, agreeable burble, either understanding me or just mimicking the sound. Its 8 thin limbs clatter to life. It wheels around, and it scuttles off toward the golden beach under the morning light, vanishing among the reefs and waves. The pal is off to work, so the boss can hardly sit idle. I weigh the weather-beaten stone axe in my hand and shake my head. The wood deficit is bad, and relying on this thing I will not scrape together the 100 pieces the upgrade needs by tomorrow. So I turn and head for the jungle near the shelter. The upgrade list clear in my head. My Grade E shelter wants 100 wood, 50 stone, and 15 iron ore. Stone is just barely covered thanks to earlier trades and chests, and I am still 2 pieces of iron ore short, which means a trip to the rocky stretch. Wood is the real disaster, since I only have 30-something and a very long way to go. The moment I step into the damp, dim jungle edge, the gathering skill fires on its own like a triggered passive. A faint blue shimmer washes across my vision, and every plant that was just a tree a second ago now wears a detailed tag. The common arbor is average wood, loose-fibered and easy to chop, good for fuel or basic framing. The hardwood tree is dense and stubborn, high difficulty but excellent durability, ideal for tool handles, weapon shafts, and load-bearing structures. The fruit tree reads as unknown, a slender trunk of medium wood that can bear fruit, though the current season shows none, marking it a potential food source. Very nice. The skill is not just for gathering fruit, it turns out, because even tree watching has gone professional on me now. I pick my target like a grizzled old lumberjack going for efficiency first. A common arbor about as thick as a bowl. I grip the rough stone axe in both hands, brace my waist and legs, shout for the momentum, and swing it down hard. Chips fly on impact, the physical enhancement is real, and the blow bites deep. But the stone axe's pitiful durability drains fast, and after only a few chops it goes visibly dull. Swinging it feels less like chopping and more like bashing the trunk with a rock. This is slower than felling trees with the starter axe in a survival game. I grumble to myself, counting the strikes. On the 27th blow, the trunk finally gives a crisp, relieved crack, tilts, and crashes down flat across a patch of innocent weeds. The haul reads 3 wood and 1 bundle of leaves. 1 tree down, 3 pieces earned, and I shake out my aching arms and check the axe, which sits at 12 durability out of 50 and is a chop or two from breaking. This will not do. The tool is too primitive and it is dragging my whole productivity down, so it is time for an industrial upgrade. I do not hesitate. I head back to the cave, will the furnace into being on the open ground, and feed in 2 iron ore and 1 wood. This time I do not just picture an axe. I hold a sharper concept in mind, an efficient, durable logging tool built specifically for wood, and I tell the fire to smelt me a professional logging axe. The dark red primal fire flares and swirls, dragging the ore and wood into itself, and the hiss of smelting begins. Faint phantom images show metal being refined, shaped, and married to a wooden handle. About a minute later, the light dies down and a brand new iron axe drifts out on a cold metallic sheen into my waiting hands. The panel calls it excellent, a heavy-duty logging tool that lifts my logging efficiency by 50% and does far more damage to wood. Its durability is 80 out of 80, well forged and balanced with a quenched edge. Now this is more like it. The heft of the thing gives me a real sense of security and power, and the blade catches the light filtering through the leaves like a cold promise. Excellent quality, a 50% efficiency bonus, and the Stone Age is officially over. The Iron Age begins. Back into the jungle I go, and I pick another common arbor of the same thickness. This time I do not bother shouting for momentum. I just twist my waist and pour the force smoothly into the blade, and the sound is crisper and cleaner. The cut bites far deeper than the stone axe ever managed. Larger chips spraying out. 10 chops and the second tree drops right on cue, handing me 4 wood and a bundle of leaves. Efficiency more than doubled, and the wood output is a piece higher, which sends my motivation soaring. Technology really is the primary productive force. For the next 2 hours, a steady, powerful logging rhythm rings through the jungle. Between the excellent iron axe and my improved body, I turn into a merciless felling machine, dropping one common arbor after another, and stacking neat wood into my storage. When the umpteenth tree comes down, I finally stop and wipe the fine sweat from my forehead. 77 fresh pieces of wood, added to what I already had, brings me to 108. Wood quota exceeded, and then some. I let out a long breath and glance toward the cave. All that is left now is the iron. I shoulder the iron axe and turn toward the rocky stretch on the far side of the coastline. As I reach the jagged black rock zone, the gathering skill triggers again off the environment. My eyes sweep the uneven surface crusted with barnacles and slick moss until the blue shimmer lights up a few special spots. There is a flint vein for fire making and simple tools, an iron ore vein marked barren with average quality and small reserves, and an oyster colony offering fresh, high-quality food. There really is iron ore. I hurry over to the marked reef, a patch of rock that runs dark red and rougher than its neighbors. When I lay a hand on it, I feel a faint warmth the surrounding sea stones do not have. I call up the iron pickaxe I forged earlier from my last scraps of ore. The panel names it excellent, built for mining minerals and hard rock, mining efficiency up 50%, durability 70 out of 70, its head sharp and sturdy enough to break through rock layers. Professional tools for professional work. I grip the wooden haft in both hands, aim at a looser stretch of the vein, brace my waist, and drive the pick down hard. Metal shrieks against stone, gravel, and dark red slag flying. And though the vein is far tougher than ordinary rock, the pickaxe's 50% bonus pries it open steadily. I settle into a rhythm like a human pile driver, one strike after another. Sweat mixed with sea spray soaks my chest, my sun-tanned skin shining with a healthy sheen. 10 minutes later, the last chunk of ore, heavy in the size of my fist, breaks loose, and the hull reads 15 iron ore. 15 pieces, even more than I hoped for. And I straighten up with a relieved grin because without meaning to, I have gathered every upgrade material at once. I head straight back to the cave and pull up the shelter interface, a pale blue screen unfolding with the upgrade option front and center. It asks whether I want to spend materials to lift the shelter from level 0, a simple cave, to level 1, a simple camp. It lists the 100 wood, 50 stone, and 15 iron ore as satisfied, and waits on my yes or no. Yes, immediately I confirm with my mind. The next instant I feel the matching materials vanish from Mongmong's storage, deducted by the power of the rules, and then the astonishing part begins. The simple fence gate at the cave mouth dissolves into soft streams of wooden light. The wood, stone, and iron pour out of storage as ribbons of color, dancing like an orchestra under a careful conductor. These threads of light go to work like master craftsmen, smoothing the uneven rock floor until it runs sleek and solid, filling and polishing the cracked walls, quietly widening the little ventilation gap. At the entrance, the light converges into a thick, sturdy solid wood door inlaid with reinforced iron bars and a simple latch, its hinges turning where the flimsy fence used to be. The whole remodel takes about 5 minutes, radiant but not loud, full of a strange sense of order. When the last thread of light melts into the door, everything goes still. The upgrade completes, and the panel lays out my new simple camp at level 1. durability 200 out of 200, defense 15, comfort 7. It provides basic shelter from wind and rain plus a weak sanity recovery of a fifth of a point a minute, and comes with a campfire and a simple bed as auxiliary buildings. It carries a sturdy special effect that cuts durability loss by 20% when attacked. The next tier, level 2, will want 300 wood, 200 stone, 50 iron ingots, and 5 units of strange mucus, and my domain range now stretches 15 meters in every direction. Comfortable. I push open the heavy new door, which feels solid and secure under my hand, and step inside to find the space somehow roomier than before, no longer so cramped. The floor is smooth enough to dance on, and the walls are sleek with no jagged edges left to scratch me. The thing that surprises me most is the natural stone platform, now capped with polished bluestone slabs, so the cold hard bite is gone. It is more like an ancient stone bed that would be pure luxury under a bear hide. 4 luminous stones have been repositioned by the system to the 4 corners, spreading their glow evenly until the whole cave is bright and warm, done with the old gloom for good. My comfort has climbed from 2 to 7, which means my sanity will recover much faster when I rest here, a real boost to my sense of security. Now it feels like a home, upgraded from a bare shell to something actually furnished. I am still turning in place admiring it when the familiar clatter and that unique excited burble come rolling in from outside. My chief pal scurries in on its 8 little legs, rushing at me like it wants a reward, and its lid pops open. It spits out a whole pile of supplies onto the smooth new floor, and when I look closer, I am overjoyed. There are 12 flint, 23 seashells in a spread of colors and patterns, 8 strands of fresh seaweed, 5 broad blades of kelp, and 3 large crabs knocked out cold. And sitting on top of the heap is a treasure chest with a steady bronze sheen and simple patterns across its surface. A bronze treasure chest. My eyes go wide because the wooden ones only ever held ordinary quality, and a bronze chest guarantees loot a full grade better. I tell Mong it did well and earned itself an extra meal tonight, pressing firmly on its lid and laying the praise on thick. It seems to understand, letting out a smug little sound and swaying its lid like a puppy wagging its tail, rubbing its edge against my palm. I walk to the chest, take a breath to steady my excitement, and lift the lid slowly. Soft golden light surges up, bright without blinding, and a string of pleasant notifications chimes through my mind, one after another. 3 iron ingots, 2 copper ingots, 10 pieces of refined wood, 5 lengths of hemp rope, 1 simple workbench blueprint, 1 water purifier blueprint, 10 military compressed biscuits, 5 stamina replenishing drinks. The light fades and I can see it all clearly, but it is the 2 blueprints, shimmering faintly like they are made of pure energy, that seize every scrap of my attention. Blueprints. A workbench blueprint and a water purifier blueprint. I pick them up with trembling hands, feeling the faint warmth at my fingertips as the manufacturing knowledge floods into my head. For a moment, I honestly get the urge to weep like some sentimental old man. I announce to the empty air that I am tearing up, that this is the kind of starter reward a proper survivor is supposed to get, a workbench and a water purifier both. It is the stuff protagonists in other survival novels pull out of their first chest. I, Dang Surin, had to grind 4 days, storm a savage camp, level a forest, dig out a little mine, and upgrade my house before a bronze chest finally coughed them up. I am complaining, but I cannot wipe the grin off my face, because these are exactly the infrastructure blueprints I needed most. With a workbench, a whole pile of standardized crafting stops having to run through the furnace and its life-burning primal fire.